Chapter 486. Amidst the excited cheers of the disciples of Cold Plum Hall and Yunwei Hall, Chen Hao seemed to have been injured quite badly as well. He flew towards Cold Plum Hall and Yunwei Hall expressionlessly. "Brother Hao! Brother!" The Lung sisters and Qin Yan's faces shone with excitement as they stood up. Honored Immortal Han Mei and Honored Immortal Yunwei also stood up with smiles as they welcomed the triumphant return of Chen Hao. Such an outcome was out of everyone's expectations. They were naturally happy for Chen Hao, but, including Honored Immortal Han Mei and Honored Immortal Yunwei, no one knew that the person controlling Chen Hao's body was Dongfang Han. "Not bad. Pa. Not bad at all. Chen Hao, I have to say that your luck with women is extraordinarily good." "Yes, it is. Unfortunately, they are all mine. Pa. I will let you watch as they die one by one in my hands. As for how they die, of course, they will die in ecstasy. Pa." Chen Hao looked at the lovely Qin Yan and the charming sisters from afar as he spoke to Chen Hao lustfully in his mind. As he spoke, he, naturally, opened his arms and cooperated with the dainty beauty Qin Yan who was rushing towards him. He was extremely pleased with himself. He really wanted to know how frustrated Chen Hao would be when Chen Hao's woman threw herself into his arms. "Refine me if you have the ability to." Boom. Chen Hao, who was completely suppressed by Dongfang Han, did not resist at first because he thought that Dongfang Han would at least restrain himself a little. Before he refined himself and obtained his memories, he would not act rashly. After all, once the crowd noticed something was amiss, it would not be easy to obtain everything about Chen Hao. However, Chen Hao did not expect that Dongfang Han would actually lay his hands on his sister at this moment. Of course, this lay his hands was only to be intimate with Chen Yan. Such a situation was considered very natural in the eyes of the crowd. However, Chen Hao would not allow it. Even though this was his own body, Dongfang Han was the one in control. How could Chen Hao allow Dongfang Han to hug his sister? Absolutely not. "You still want to resist? Suppress him." Facing Chen Hao's soul power that had suddenly soared, Dongfang Han's expression didn't change. However, his sword world suddenly became several times stronger, suppressing Chen Hao's soul. "Can you suppress it? I wanted to let you be smug for a while, but since you don't know how to restrain yourself, then I don't have to worry so much." Rumble. Following Chen Hao's cold words, Chen Hao's small world, which was not even worth mentioning in Dongfang Han's eyes, suddenly exploded and spread out in all directions at a terrifying speed. How is this possible? At this time, Dongfang Han suddenly looked at the scene in front of him in shock and disbelief. "You said that everything is possible. Is my world really that small? Naive. I let you temporarily control my body because I didn't want to expose that I wanted to possess you. I believe that you didn't want to expose that you wanted to possess me, but you didn't know how to restrain yourself. You can't blame me. I control my body. Suppress it." Rumble. Chi 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 chi. Countless sword lights condensed from soul energy spread out as Chen Hao's mind expanded. They carried an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Dongfang Han didn't have time to stop them. They instantly broke through Dongfang Han's indestructible sword net. Chen Hao's mind world began to madly corrode Dongfang Han's sword world. "Impossible, impossible. How can your mind world be so strong? How is this possible?" Chen Hao, who was flying in the air, suddenly let out a loud cry and fell down from the sky. Hiss hiss. Seeing this, the beautiful sisters of the Lung family were shocked. Their bodies instantly turned into two streams of light and rushed toward Chen Hao, who seemed to be unable to fly due to his heavy injuries. However, chi chi chi. Rumble. Before the two of them reached Chen Hao, streams of terrifying energy burst out from Chen Hao's body like a flash flood. The beautiful sisters had stepped into the human celestial realm, but at this moment, they couldn't get any closer. At this moment, everyone, including the Deputy Dean, Holy Master Yuan Ru, who was hosting the competition, looked at Chen Hao in horror. What's going on? What a terrifying aura! Inextinguishable sword essence and destruction sword essence. How can they appear on his body at the same time? Countless masters were surprised and puzzled. The inextinguishable sword essence and the destruction sword essence were two completely incompatible sword principles. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for them to appear on the same person at the same time. However, at this moment, Chen Hao's body burst out with the aura of two sword principles at the same time. Moreover, these two terrifying auras seemed to be in a great battle. They intertwined and produced violent energy fluctuations and explosions. Chen Hao's body, on the other hand, was twisting and changing strangely as the two terrifying energies exploded. Its possession. Yes, its possession. Fang Handong didn't die. He didn't die. The inextinguishable sword essence is Fang Handong's. Oh my God. What a crazy guy. What a powerful soul. His body was destroyed, but his soul was still able to possess his body without anyone noticing. It's incredible. After a short while, some masters at the celestial prime level and above figured out what was going on. They widened their eyes in horror. Before reaching the human celestial realm, even a half-step human celestial's soul and primordial spirit were quite fragile. Under the terrifying attack of a unique skill, the only result was destruction. However, Fang Handong's soul and primordial spirit had entered Chen Hao's body without anyone noticing. Then they started to possess his body. How could this not be shocking? However, what was equally shocking was the strength of Chen Hao's soul. Possession. Haha, Han Dong didn't die, he didn't die. Fan Suixin, who had been in despair, was pleasantly surprised when he realized what was going on. No wonder Han Dong was so weak today. It turns out that he had a plan. The strength of his soul has reached the Earth's celestial stage, which is even stronger than mine. Although Chen Hao's soul is not weak, how could it be compared with Han Dong's? Chen Hao. Unlike Fan Suixin, Celestial Venerable Han Mei and Celestial Venerable Yun Wei, who had been smiling, frowned and rushed toward Chen Hao worriedly. Humph, what do you want to do? Fan Suixin shouted coldly and rushed over. Everyone step back. Just at this moment, Heavenly Master Yuanru suddenly said, Fang Handong has entered Chen Hao's soul residence. No external force can help them in this soul war. If you intervene, both of their bodies and souls will be destroyed at the same time. Geniuses like them are extremely rare on the Wuji star. Unfortunately, only one of them is destined to survive. No matter who survives, I don't want to see him retaliate. Otherwise, the old man will be the first to hunt him down. Condense. Swish. A ray of colorful light was emitted from Heavenly Master Yuanru's hand. It turned into a light sphere with a diameter of 10,000 feet, which protected Chen Hao, who had fallen to the ground. The competition was still going on, but at this moment, most people's attention was on Chen Hao's body. Within the barrier, Chen Hao's body was constantly twisting. Sometimes, it was stretched by several times, and sometimes, it was twisted like a fried dough twist. But what shocked everyone was that Chen Hao's body seemed to be on the verge of collapse every time, but it still persisted. This caused everyone to tremble with fear and shock. Even some peak earthly immortal experts couldn't help but admire the perfection of Chen Hao's body. Chen Hao will definitely win. Although Fang Handong's soul power is strong, Chen Hao's soul power is not inferior to his. Moreover, Chen Hao's temperament is absolutely incomparable to Fang Handong's. Don't worry, as long as no one intervenes, Chen Hao will be the one to survive. It must be. Venerable Han Mei looked at the nervous crowd and comforted them. However, even though she said so, she and Yun Wei were frowning. Their nervous expressions showed that they didn't have the slightest confidence. At this moment, even the two immortal sovereigns weren't sure who the final winner would be. It was hard to tell which of the two sword essences was stronger. Moreover, Dongfang Han took the initiative to seize the body. How could he not be confident? In addition to Dongfang Han's previous performance, Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei had vaguely guessed that the destruction of Dongfang Han's body might be a trap set by him. Mother, can he win? I'm not sure, but his chances of winning should be higher than Chen Hao's. I just didn't expect Chen Hao's soul power to be so strong. I thought he could easily control the situation, but now it seems that he will have to fight hard. In the direction of the limitless demon palace, Guan Nanxia and her daughter, Bailey Ningbing, were talking in a low voice. Chen Hao's soul power is not inferior to Fang Handong's. The battle of seizing the body will depend on who has a stronger temperament. Fortunately, I asked you to wait until he stepped into the human immortal realm before you became his cultivation companion. Otherwise, if something happens, you will suffer a great loss. Now, it's best if Fang Handong wins, but if he loses, it won't affect you much. Mother, why won't it affect him much? We finally found the most suitable Fang Handong. If he dies, where can I find him? Isn't Chen Hao the same? Fang Handong has the true essence of the undying sword Dao. Not only did he comprehend the undying sword Dao, but he also obtained a powerful inheritance. After the battle of soul power, even if his divine soul is destroyed, the inheritance will be obtained by Chen Hao. At that time, with your talent and appearance, you will be able to get it from Chen Hao. Mother, he already has many women. I'd rather not cultivate for such a person. Stupid. You are my daughter. Can't you see that his women are still pure? Besides, even if he has many women, so what? He can kill them all with some tricks. Well, it's not very meaningful to talk about this. Fang Handong has a great chance of winning. This person's scheming and temperament are very powerful. Ordinary people can't compare with him. Just wait and see. Okay. Chapter 487. Good. I didn't expect you to hide it so deeply. My soul power and sword world don't have any advantage at all. However, you want to refine me with just this? Dream on. In Chen Hao's mind, Dongfang Han, who was unprepared and confident of victory, lost control of Chen Hao's body due to Chen Hao's sudden powerful counterattack. However, after a short moment of shock, Dongfang Han calmed down and released an even more condensed and terrifying soul attack. Even though Dongfang Han could clearly feel that Chen Hao's mind world, soul power, and sword realm were not inferior to his, and because of his carelessness, Chen Hao's attack caught him off guard and suppressed him, Dongfang Han was not afraid at all. Because he had the confidence to win. In a battle of souls, the stronger the soul power, the higher the chance of victory. This was without a doubt. However, it was not easy for any cultivator to obtain the final victory with just soul power. This could only be done with absolute soul power suppression. Even though Chen Hao's soul power was stronger, it was only on par with his. It was impossible for him to suppress him completely. Therefore, the key to determining the final victory was one's will and temperament. Is that so? Then I'll let you see who's the one dreaming. Rumble. A terrifying explosion, followed by Chen Hao's cold voice, suddenly exploded in Chen Hao's mind. The only battle of souls had officially begun. One had the terrifying inheritance of the undying sword world. The other had the mysterious ancient spiritual treasure. Both of their souls had the perverse experience of soul fusion, and each of them had their own obsession and perseverance. Who would be stronger and who would be weaker? Who would win and who would lose? No one could be sure. Only Chen Hao and Dongfang Han had absolute confidence in themselves. Chen Hao, who was enveloped by the seven-colored light, emitted two auras that belonged to Chen Hao and Dongfang Han. They became stronger and stronger, and the fluctuations became more and more intense. Everyone stared at this scene with a nervous and shocked expression, completely forgetting about the disciples in the competition. Especially those who were related to Chen Hao and Fang Handong, they were even more nervous. Their mood was like a roller coaster, rising and falling along with the changes in their auras. Time ticked by. Even after all the groups had finished their matches, the soul battle was still going on, and the outcome was still unclear. Sometimes, Dongfang Han's soul aura would have the upper hand, and sometimes, Chen Hao's soul aura would be slightly stronger. It was hard to tell who was the victor. It was impossible to tell who had the upper hand. However, the overflowing aura naturally became weaker and weaker after Chen Hao's true qi was exhausted. For hours later, other than sensing a slight change in his aura, Chen Hao's physical body remained motionless. Everyone knew that under this seemingly calm surface, the battle of souls had reached a truly dangerous moment. Boom, boom, boom. The clash of pure soul and will played out in Chen Hao's mind. Boundless pain crazily attacked Chen Hao and Dongfang Han at the same time. What's this little bit of pain? I, Dongfang Han, have a heart as firm as a rock. No amount of pain can destroy my will. No illusions can affect my state of mind. The intense pain of his soul being entangled, torn, and crushed caused Dongfang Han to roar wildly. It was as if he had returned to the moment when the top demon of the eastern continent, Noda Xieqing, had refined his soul. His mind maintained a high fighting spirit, and his will showed no signs of being destroyed under this terrifying pain. Instead, it became even more condensed and thorough. However, Dongfang Han's cries had lost their original absolute confidence, because it was only at this moment that Dongfang Han realized that Chen Hao's soul and will had been condensed to an unimaginable level. What shocked Dongfang Han even more was that every time Chen Hao's will fluctuated, it was like a real physical attack, containing a will that had been condensed to an unimaginable level. Void crystallization of thought. Dongfang Han could also do this. This was the symbol of the Earth's celestial stage soul power, but compared to Chen Hao, not bad. I wonder how long you can last? You clown. You were no match for me in the past, and you're still no match for me now. In the future. Oh, sorry, you don't have a future anymore. You think you're awesome because you have the inheritance of the world of swords? To others, maybe. But to me, Chen Hao, you're nothing. Chen Hao's voice was indifferent. Under the unbearable pain of Dongfang Han's soul, he seemed to feel nothing. It's time to increase my power to 30%. You'd better be ready. What did you say? 30%? Dongfang Han was shocked. What do you think? Are you trying to scare me? Do you think I'm an idiot? Your soul and will are indeed stronger than mine, but you're only at the Earth's celestial stage. How much stronger can you be? You can stop dreaming if you want to destroy me psychologically. Don't even mention that you didn't use 30% of your strength. Even if you did use 30% of your strength, you won't be able to destroy my will. The final winner will be me, Dongfang Han. I'd like to see how long you can pretend. You talk too much. Let's start to enjoy the feast. Swish. The sudden increase in pain made Dongfang Han extremely miserable. Now, it was far more painful than when he merged with Noda Xieqing's soul. But this was just the beginning. After 10 years of deep sleep, although Chen Hao's soul power was only at the Earth's celestial stage, his soul mutation couldn't be measured by common sense. Especially in terms of will and temperament, it had reached an unattainable level. Dongfang Han's soul was only at the Earth's celestial stage. Even if it was 10 times stronger, as long as he didn't have an absolute advantage in terms of soul power, the final winner would only be Chen Hao. Strong. Really strong. I didn't expect Master's will and temperament to be so strong. Is this the result of these 10 years? Phew. I didn't expect this either. We were worried for nothing. But my physical body is gone. In Chen Hao's mind, the calm god, the treasure-hunting sword spirit, and Itoda, who looked like a frosted eggplant, stared at the two auras and talked in low voices. No one expected Chen Hao to be so relaxed when facing Dongfang Han, whose soul was at the same level as his will and temperament. Let's not idle around, let's get to work. This sword world has been intertwined with our world. They've lost control of the sword world because of their battle. But we're different. Devour and refine it. 5 divine beasts, come out. This chapter is too short, so I'll update it first. Chapter 488. Ah. There's a result. Handong. Chen Hao. Brother Hao. Brother. Boss. For hours after the end of the competition, Chen Hao, who was the center of attention, suddenly woke up. At this moment, venerable immortal Han Mei and Fan Suixin's people cried out in surprise and nervousness. Judging from the aura, no one could be sure whether it was Chen Hao or Fang Handong who had woken up. The aura of the Immortal Sword Principle and the Destruction Sword Principle were still intertwined. Logically speaking, it was impossible to wake up at this time. Although the aura was weak, it was obvious that the winner had not been decided yet. However, he had woken up and controlled his physical body. What did this mean? Between Chen Hao and Fang Handong, one of them had already won the battle with ease. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to split his attention to control his physical body at this time. He wouldn't have been able to do it. Who do you think it is? I don't know. It's more likely to be Fang Handong, right? After all, Fang Handong deliberately let Chen Hao destroy his physical body and take over his body. Yes, it must be Fang Handong. It should be Chen Hao. This Chen Hao showed his terrifying strength 10 years ago and did many incredible things. Although he was in a coma for 10 years, his soul was obviously not injured. This means that the rumors about him being in a coma may be just an excuse for him to practice in seclusion. Not only Venerable Han Mei and Fan Suixin, but also everyone present, including the Vice Dean of Elite Academy X, stared nervously at Chen Hao, who was slowly getting up, with doubts in their hearts. However, except for Venerable Han Mei and those who were familiar with Chen Hao, more than half of the people thought that Fang Handong had a higher chance of winning. There was also a very small number of people who did not know Chen Hao but had heard of Chen Hao's deeds 10 years ago. They thought that Chen Hao had a higher chance of winning. Phew! Under everyone's gaze, Chen Hao let out a long sigh. A faint smile appeared on Chen Hao's face as he looked at the people outside the light screen who were shouting at him with nervous expressions. Empyrean Yuanru's protective light shield suddenly disappeared. Are you Chen Hao? Heavenly Venerate Yuanru floated in front of Chen Hao. His eyes were as vast as the ocean as he stared at Chen Hao in confusion. His voice wasn't loud, but it drifted into everyone's ears. The cultivators who had been speculating and discussing earlier all held their breaths, waiting for Chen Hao's answer. Who was the winner? Or rather, who had the absolute advantage for the time being? Thank you for your protection, Senior. Can I go now? Chen Hao cupped his fists and bowed. He looked at the light shield that was protecting and imprisoning him. Chen Hao's answer instantly ignited the entire martial arts practice field. Impossible. Impossible. How could you suppress the strength of Han Dong's soul? How is this possible? Fan Suixin, whose heart was in his throat, felt like he was on a roller coaster. His mood changed from despair to hope. However, after a short 4 hours of waiting, the result was this old man went crazy again. He roared as if he had gone mad. On the other hand, Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei let out a long sigh of relief. Chen Hao's brothers and sisters screamed excitedly and danced with joy. You're welcome. However, you can't leave for the time being. Empyrean Yuanru said. But the outcome has been decided. Moreover, he brought it upon himself. It has nothing to do with me. Senior, I didn't violate the rules of the competition, right? Chen Hao frowned. If Old Man didn't stop you, you definitely didn't violate the rules. However, did you really win? If Old Man didn't guess wrong, you should have the upper hand, right? Yes. It's only a matter of time before I completely refine and destroy him. Chen Hao said in a deep voice. You're wrong. Your soul power is similar to Fang Handong's. Both of you have reached the peak of the later stage of the Earth celestial stage. The reason why you have the upper hand is that it's in your body. Otherwise, you might not be the one controlling the body now. Moreover, in a battle of souls, especially a battle of possession like yours, the deciding factor is not only soul power. It's still hard to predict who will win in the end. Empyrean Yuanru said calmly. Yes. Empyrean Yuanru, we can't let him leave. Yes, we can't let him leave. The final winner will be Senior Brother Fang. Fang Handong will win. Old Man doesn't favor anyone. If Fang Handong was the one controlling the body now, Old Man wouldn't let him leave either. You should understand what Old Man means, right? Both of you are cultivation geniuses that only appear once in 1,000 years. No matter who wins in the end, the ancestor may take you in as his personal disciple. This old man doesn't want any accidents to happen, so this old man will send you to my grotto heaven until the outcome is decided. During this period of time, this old man can guarantee your safety. No matter who it is, they won't be able to interfere with you. Of course, I'm no exception. All right. Chen Hao nodded. Chen Hao could feel that Empyrean Yuanru was not lying. He had no ill intentions toward him. That was indeed the case. Think about it, if Dongfang Han was the one in control now and he was allowed to leave with Fan Suixin, even if Chen Hao won, he would probably be killed by Fan Suixin. Similarly, if Dongfang Han had won in Winter Plum Hall, immortal Venerable Han Mei would have killed him. Therefore, Emperor Yuanru's decision was undoubtedly the fairest. One of the two geniuses that only appeared once in 1,000 years was destined to be lost. How could Emperor Yuanru allow both to be lost? Brother Hao. Brother. Boss. When Chen Hao was carried into the air by Emperor Yuanru, the Leng sisters, Chen Yan, Chen Nan, Huyan Aobua, and the others all called out to him. Emperor Yuanru's words made them feel conflicted again. Don't worry, I'll be back. The corners of Chen Hao's mouth curled up slightly with a faint smile. His bright eyes were filled with confidence as he swept his gaze across the crowd. Under the lead of Heavenly Venerate Yuanru, he directly disappeared from everyone's sight. Night fell. Winter Plum Hall and Yunwei Hall. The two immortal venerables and all their disciples were gathered in the side courtyards arranged by the elite academy. Master, the battle of souls. How long will it take for the victor to be decided? We're not sure. In a situation where there's a huge difference in strength, it won't take long, from a few minutes to a few hours, to completely destroy the soul of the other party. However, Chen Hao and Fang Handong's souls have both entered the Earth Immortal realm. The soul of an Earth Immortal has reached the level of materialization and crystallization. No matter who it is, it won't be easy to completely destroy the other party. I'm afraid it'll take a long time, at least a few months, at most, a few years. Also what? If the other party's will is firm, and the difference in soul strength isn't that great, it's impossible to destroy them. The only way is to completely shatter their souls and reassemble them. This is also a method that no one dares to use for possession, soul fusion. If it fails, both parties will die together. If it succeeds, one of them will take the lead and life and death will no longer matter. This kind of soul fusion process usually results in a mutation, and there are two results. One is that after the mutation, the will, temperament, and soul strength will all increase. The other is going crazy and becoming a two-faced person. However, the probability of this happening is very small. At this point, it's useless for us to worry, we can only wait. Venerable Han Mei said. Yes, we can only wait. However, I believe that the final victor will be Chen Hao. This kid has never let us down. The situation 10 years ago is the best proof. It's only a matter of time. Venerable Yunwei said. In the courtyard of Limitless Demon Palace's Nanxia Hall. I didn't expect Chen Hao's soul strength to be so much stronger than Fang Handong's. It's really hard to say who will win. Ningbing, let's go and find your grandfather. Mother, why are you looking for grandfather? Your grandfather is friends with Heavenly Venerable Yuanru. Mother wants to help Fang Handong? Bailey Ningbing asked. We can't help. Fang Handong and Chen Hao's soul are already intertwined. Not to mention us, even old Ancestor Limitless can't help them. They can only rely on themselves. Moreover, Heavenly Venerable Yuanru said that no matter who survives, they will become old Ancestor Limitless direct disciple. This has a limitless future. Even if your grandfather is friends with Heavenly Venerable Yuanru, Heavenly Venerable Yuanru won't let us interfere in this matter. Mother, what do you mean? As long as you can comprehend the undying sword Tao. The only thing you're lacking now is this. Once you succeed, you won't be inferior to those two. How? You will know when the time comes. The corner of little darling's mouth hooked up into a faint smile as she spoke with confidence. The next morning, Limitless Elite Academy's second round of talent and potential test was held as scheduled. In Limitless Demon Palace's area, many people noticed that Bailey Ningbing was no longer beside Nanxia Hall's palace master. Chen Hao, it doesn't matter who wins or dies. It has nothing to do with me. I just want to comprehend the undying sword Tao. However, if you didn't appear, I would have been able to start comprehending it after this competition. But now, because of you, I have no choice but to choose a lower level of comprehension. In a light screen, Limitless Devil Palace's Nanxia Hall, Guan Nanxia's daughter, who was also the granddaughter of Limitless Devil Palace's palace master, Bailey Ningbing, was sitting cross-legged. Her beautiful face was slightly enchanting as she stared at a figure wrapped in light not far away. Bailey Ningbing's eyes let people know with one look that this was a person full of scheming. Chapter 489. Let's hope Fong Handong wins. I don't have much confidence in comprehending it just by capturing his aura. Bailey Ningbing slowly closed her eyes, her mind carefully enveloping the light shield Chen Hao was in. The moment she closed her eyes, she seemed to have transformed into another person. Ethereal, and illusory at the same time. There was no longer any trace of her scheming look. This was a world specially created by Heavenly Venerate Yunru. It was a true miniature world, not a mental world. This was also a true world that only heavenly immortals could condense in the void outside their bodies. In this world, every action of any living being was under the surveillance of Heavenly Venerate Yunru. At this moment, Bailey Ningbing had borrowed the friendship between her grandfather, the palace master of the Limitless Demon Palace, and Heavenly Venerate Yunru to come here. Of course, it was absolutely impossible for her to attack Chen Hao. The Independent Light Shield's protective seal was a restriction on her true yuan and physical freedom. The only thing she could use was the power of her mind, or in other words, mental force. Moreover, it was limited to the outside of Chen Hao's protective light shield. It was impossible for her to probe inside. The reason the palace master of the Limitless Demon Palace told Heavenly Venerate Yunru was that he wanted his granddaughter, Bailey Ningbing, to come here to comprehend the undying sword Dao and cultivate a supreme technique. Bailey Ningbing suddenly opened her eyes when she sensed the aura emanating from Chen Hao's light shield. The undying will is that strong? Does Fong Handong have the absolute advantage? This completely exceeded Bailey Ningbing's expectations. One had to know that the reason she had used her grandfather's friendship with Heavenly Venerate Yunru to come here was not as simple as it seemed. After all, it was basically impossible to rely solely on aura to comprehend something. She had come because she was worried that the final victor would be Chen Hao. If that was the case, no matter how confident she was, it would not be easy for her to conquer Chen Hao, a youth who was destined to stand at the top of the boundless continent. Especially since she did not have any relationship with Chen Hao and did not even know him. Not only that, but everyone knew that she and Fong Handong were going to become Taoist companions. This was a taboo for most men. Although she was still a virgin, her value would depreciate a lot. In addition, Chen Hao already had many beautiful confidants around him. If she wanted to monopolize Chen Hao, she could only kill everyone by any means necessary. Otherwise, it would be impossible. However, if he were to do that and expose anything to Chen Hao, then the loss would outweigh the gain. She was a person who could not tolerate any flaws. That's the best. If Dong Fong Han succeeds, it will save me a lot of trouble. Comparatively speaking, I like this physical body more. But in reality, Rumble, the world in Chen Hao's mind was completely different from the weak ripples that Bailey Ningbing sensed. The old god, the treasure hunter sword spirit, Ito Tai, and the 5 divine beasts all moved out. With an unstoppable speed, they frantically destroyed and devoured Dong Fong Han's sword world. Although the sword world was destroyed, the aura and will of the inextinguishable sword Dao surged violently and covered the aura together. At the core of the 2 sword worlds, Chen Hao and Dong Fong Han's souls had already collided and attacked wildly. The color of Chen Hao's soul seemed to be constantly changing, emitting a dazzling rainbow light. On the other hand, Dong Fong Han's soul was pure gold. On the surface, Chen Hao's rainbow light had already completely enveloped the gold color. Not even a trace of golden light could be emitted. It was as if Chen Hao had the absolute advantage. However, judging from the aura, the inextinguishable will was extremely pure. No matter how Chen Hao's aura changed, he was still unable to truly suppress it. Just as Empyrean Yuanru had said, this was a difficult battle. It was only when he truly wanted to destroy and refine Dong Fong Han's soul that Chen Hao realized that things were not as simple as he had imagined. In the end, I still underestimated you. I didn't expect your will to be no weaker than mine. Even under such terrifying pain, you can still maintain your state of mind. At this moment, Chen Hao's mind flashed with crazy thoughts. Even he did not expect that he, who had the absolute advantage, would find it so difficult to refine Dongfang Han's soul. In a battle of souls, whether it was attacking or being attacked, one would have to endure the same amount of pain. Whether it was Dongfang Han or Chen Hao, every time they attacked, the pain the other suffered would be completely reflected on their own soul. There was no room to maneuver. And now, although Chen Hao was far from reaching his limit, he had reached the point where he was gnashing his teeth. However, Dongfang Han was still standing strong. Humph! If you have the guts, then let's destroy each other. Whoever wins will die. Let's settle this once and for all. Is there any use in talking nonsense? With this kind of attack, even if you have 10 years or 100 years, you can forget about destroying my will. Dongfang Han's voice was cold. He was clearly suppressed to the point where he could not retaliate, but he was not afraid at all. There was a belief in his heart, an extremely firm belief that he would be the final victor, because he had the indestructible sword world. How could he not know that the sword world that was connected to his mind was being wildly destroyed and swallowed by the existence in Chen Hao's mind? However, he did not care at all. He and the sword world were one. As long as his will existed, even if the sword world was completely destroyed and collapsed, he could reform it again with just a thought. Otherwise, how could it become indestructible? And as long as the sword world was not completely destroyed, his mind would always be clear. In reality, in Dongfang Han's state, if he did not have an overwhelming advantage in soul power, he was basically indestructible. Want to destroy it? Only by detonating it and fusing it. That was one of the reasons. Secondly, if Chen Hao was forced to detonate his soul to fuse with him, it would be a battle of will and temperament. And he was full of confidence in his own will and temperament. Is that so? I'd like to see how long you can last. You want me to detonate my soul to fuse with you? I'm sorry, I can't afford to lose face like that. I won't let a dirty soul like you affect me at all. Boom. Chen Hao had no choice but to increase his soul power again. Old God, speed up. At the same time, Chen Hao informed Old God. Don't worry, at most half a month, I'll be able to completely destroy and refine his sword world. That's good. Chen Hao knew very well that Dongfang Han's sword world was connected to his mind, and it would definitely be of great help to him. Just like his mind world, it complemented him. Therefore, only by completely controlling Dongfang Han's sword world could he destroy Dongfang Han's reliance from the root. Ha! Looks like you won't turn back until you hit the wall. In that case, I don't mind telling you, even if your soul is 10 times stronger, you can forget about destroying me, let alone my sword world. Ha! That's the inheritance of the indestructible sword world. What is indestructible? I only need 1 year and my sword world will be reformed. Is that so? You don't believe me? Then I'll show you. Form this. At this point, Dongfang Han, who was completely suppressed, suddenly released a wisp of extremely pure telekinesis, which instantly pierced through Chen Hao's soul. Rumble, chi 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 chi. This, in that instant, what shocked Chen Hao and Old God was that the sword world, which had mostly collapsed, suddenly underwent an earth-shattering change. It broke away from Old God's control and once again formed an independent world. The space was smaller, but the indestructible will that it emitted was more condensed. True indestructible? Old God frowned and sighed. What do you mean? Old God, didn't you say that you've already destroyed and refined it and controlled a part of it? How could this be? I really didn't expect. How could the boundless star have a true indestructible inheritance? Chen Hao, if you want to destroy him, I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult. The knowledgeable Old God said to Chen Hao. Old God's current abilities and senses weren't much stronger than Chen Hao's. This was because he and Chen Hao hadn't started the fusion since the last time they'd completed the fusion. Therefore, Old God's abilities hadn't been truly unsealed. That was why he hadn't sensed that this was a true indestructible sword world. What's going on? Indestructible is the highest level of the indestructible sword path. Someone of the same level or even 2 levels higher can't truly kill the person who has obtained this inheritance, unless they detonate their soul to fuse with it. But after the fusion, it's hard to say who will become the successor. Also, to be able to obtain the indestructible inheritance, one's soul and will must have been terrifyingly tempered. Even you might not be much stronger than him. Old God said uncertainly. Of course, Old God still had faith in Chen Hao. Especially after these 10 years, even he was unable to determine exactly what level Chen Hao's will had been tempered to. Haha, now you know I'm right? I can't do anything to you, but you can't refine me either. The only way is to detonate your soul and fuse with it. If you're a man, then be straightforward. Our grudges must be settled. Either you die or I die. Don't tell me you don't dare. Otherwise, even if you can suppress me, you can forget about fighting anyone else. If you're careless, I'll detonate my soul and the result will be the same. Although we'll fight to the death, I have to say that you're the most qualified person to be my opponent. Don't make me look down on you. Come. Is there no other way other than to detonate your soul and fuse with it? Chen Hao asked Old God when Dongfang Han was roaring with pride. You're afraid you can't beat him? Old God was slightly worried. At this point, it wasn't a good thing to not have a firm belief. Afraid? Yes, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that his dirty soul will affect my personality. The me on Earth and the me in this world are both me. Plus, I didn't have a choice back then. And Dongfang Han is such a narrow-minded, treacherous person. I don't want to be affected without knowing it after I fuse with him. It's not that there's no other way but, completed 2 chapters. Please don't worry, this book will not be unfinished no matter what. Starting a stable update, 2 chapters a day. If there are special circumstances, Dark Mountain will ask for leave to explain. If you like this book, you're welcome to come to Chidian.com to vote. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 490. Say it. As long as you don't have to fuse with his soul. Chen Hao asked. Alright, you can say it, but if you want to do it, you have to be careful. This is much more dangerous than detonating your soul to fuse with him. Once you fail, you will be doomed. Old God's voice was extremely serious. The undying indestructible inheritance is an extremely rare and difficult inheritance. It and the inheritor support each other, which is equivalent to having 2 lives. As long as you can maintain your consciousness, you will be invincible. Other than detonating your soul to fuse with Dongfang Han, the other method is to seize the undying indestructible world. Seize? Yes. To do this, your soul must enter his undying indestructible world. If you do that, Dongfang Han's soul power will increase several times in his world, which is not a good thing for you. Furthermore, you must withstand stronger attacks and truly comprehend the undying sword way. Furthermore, your realm must be higher than Dongfang Han's so that your mind can completely fuse with his world and seize the inheritance. If that is the case, it will be easy to destroy Dongfang Han's soul. It's that simple? That simple? Right now, your 2 soul palaces are fighting, and his undying indestructible world is fighting against your mental world. This is a relatively fair battle, but your soul power is only slightly higher than Dongfang Han's. But what about after you enter his undying world? His soul power will increase several times, and if you can't withstand it, you will be destroyed by him. Furthermore, the prerequisite is that you must use a large portion of your soul power to suppress Dongfang Han. Otherwise, he will detonate his soul, and the result will be soul fusion. Old God, you seem to have forgotten that my main sword way is the secular sword way. There is one more thing you don't know. With the endurance of my soul, even if his soul power increases by 10 or 20 times, he will not be able to shake my will, let alone a few times. Just wait and see. All of a sudden, Chen Hao's soul, which was shining with dazzling 7-colored light, disappeared, leaving behind only his immense soul power to suppress Dongfang Han. No matter how much Dongfang Han howled in disdain, Chen Hao ignored him. Undying indestructible. Undying indestructible. What is undying indestructible? When my lifespan ends, all living things die, but I will not die. when the mountains and rivers shatter, the heavens and earth collapse, I will not die. Rumble, under the control of Dongfang Han's will, countless terrifying sword lights in the undying and imperishable world crazily and unceasingly strangled Chen Hao's soul. However, amidst the excruciating pain in his soul, Chen Hao's mind was completely clear. He casually activated the will of the secular sword way, and various words related to the undying and imperishable world appeared in his mind. He did not let go of the general principles of the Great Tao, the 3,000 Great Taos, and all the supreme techniques he had cultivated and seen before, all of which confirmed the aura of the undying sword way. The art of longevity. From high to low level, Chen Hao caught the mantra of the 16th level of the art of longevity that he had obtained from Elder Shao and the Dongfang family. Suddenly, his mind shook. No matter what, Chen Hao did not expect that he would adjust his state of mind and organize all the mantras related to the undying and imperishable world in his mind so that he could integrate his state of mind into the will of the undying and imperishable world faster. After all, although Chen Hao had the secular sword way inheritance, he had never activated the undying sword way, and he did not know what state of mind he should use to activate it. However, what he did not expect was that when the low-level supreme technique, the art of longevity, that he had long abandoned and put to the back of his mind, appeared in his mind, he did not need to control it and it integrated into a mysterious state of mind. This feeling was as if a super expert had suddenly returned to the past and started cultivating from the basics again. It was easy and comfortable. If that was all, Chen Hao would not be so surprised. What really shocked him was that when he entered the state of mind of the art of longevity, mysterious words suddenly rushed into his mind, just like the words of the second half of the art of longevity that he had obtained from the Dongfang family. Just based on the words alone, he was sure that they were written by one person. Longevity, immortality, that is, undying and imperishable. The art of longevity, it is actually related to the art of longevity. No wonder Dongfang Han could obtain such a powerful inheritance. No wonder the mantra of the art of longevity is unique. Chen Hao thought to himself in shock as he accepted the words that automatically rushed into his mind from Dongfang Han's world of immortality and imperishable. Back then, as his cultivation level increased, he had no choice but to change the mantra of the supreme technique. However, at that time, he always had a feeling that the art of longevity was not as simple as he had imagined. However, he did not know why it was not simple at that time, and he only discovered it by comparing it with other techniques. This was because the mantra of the art of longevity was completely different from any other supreme technique. This situation did not exist in other supreme techniques. No matter how high the level of a supreme technique's mantra was, it would have something in common with a low-level one. However, the art of longevity did not. As for why it was not simple, Chen Hao did not know. Now, Chen Hao finally understood. The art of longevity was only the lowest level of the three parts of the world of immortality and imperishable. The second level was the art of immortality, and the third level was the imperishable mantra. They were collectively known as the world of immortality and imperishable. Ah, good, this is simply too good. The art of immortality is a supreme technique from the Golden Core realm to the creation realm, while the imperishable mantra is a supreme technique at the immortal prime level. Unfortunately, I have only obtained the first level of the art of immortality. This is obviously limited by my own realm of the world of immortality and imperishable. This means that I only need to cultivate to a higher realm than Dongfang Han, and I can easily obtain the inheritance of the world of immortality and imperishable. Phew! When the motionless Chen Hao, who was obviously immersed in the battle of souls, suddenly heaved a long sigh of relief, Bailey Ningbing, who was enveloped by a light barrier not far away, was abruptly awakened. He's awake? The result is out so quickly? Bailey Ningbing thought to herself as she stared at Chen Hao in a daze. Bailey Ningbing? When Chen Hao's soul returned to his body, he instantly sensed a presence and opened his eyes. When he was at the training ground, Chen Hao's mind had already sensed Bailey Ningbing. After all, according to the rumors, Bailey Ningbing was Dongfang Han's Dao companion, which meant that she was his enemy. Of course, Chen Hao would be concerned about her. Fang Handong? Is that you? You won? Bailey Ningbing was slightly surprised, her eyes filled with confusion. What are you doing here? Chen Hao did not answer Bailey Ningbing's question. He frowned slightly and asked with a hint of sharpness in his eyes. Looks like the battle isn't over yet. You're Chen Hao, right? Don't worry, I can't do anything to you. Heavenly Lord Yuanru allowed me to be here. As for why, I'm sorry. I'll tell him or you when the battle is over. This is Heavenly Venerate Yuanru's Grotto Heaven. No one can harm you, so you can continue. Also, I can tell you something first. Fang Handong was originally chosen by my mother as my Taoist companion. If the final victor is you, then I can only seek repayment from you. You will replace him and become my Taoist companion. Also, I'm a virgin. I've only met Dongfang Han a few times. There are no feelings between us. Bailey Ningbing spoke frankly with assurance. Her eyes were cold and her expression was calm. She looked straight at Chen Hao as if she was talking about the most ordinary thing. However, as she spoke, Chen Hao's slightly opened eyes widened. Are you kidding me? Sorry, I'm not kidding. If he dies, you'll be my Dao companion, my man. Of course, if he lives, it's even better. So you're saying that the one who wanted to possess me is your father? If he dies and I live, I'll be your father? Chen Hao said sarcastically without holding back. I don't have a father. If there's such a thing, I'll kill you for revenge. Nonsense. Let me tell you, no matter what your motive is, I'm not interested in you. Dongfang Han, your Dao companion Fang Handong, is dead for sure. Don't even think about repaying with your body. Revenge is welcome. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he closed his eyes and ignored her. He began to cultivate the first level of the art of immortality. He thought that Bailey Ningbing would say something else. However, to his surprise, Bailey Ningbing did not say anything. The Wuji Elite Academy's test ended 3 days later. Although Qin Nan, Qin Shui, and the other 8 disciples of Winter Plum Hall and Yunwei Hall had successfully become Elite Academy's disciples and obtained good results, no one was happy about their success. They were all waiting for Chen Hao's news. Half a month later, Yuan Rutianzuan told everyone that the soul battle between Chen Hao and Fang Handong might take another year or so. Only then did Senior Immortal Han Mei and Senior Immortal Yun Wei leave with the disciples who had failed the test. Huyen Aobua, Chen Nan, Chen Yen, and the others also began their training in the Elite Academy. As for the Lung sisters who had reached the immortal realm, they did not choose to leave the Wuji Star. Instead, they stayed in the Extreme Sun School to cultivate and wait for the final result. What is he doing? It's been 4 months and there's no change in his aura. It shouldn't be like this. Could he be cultivating? Impossible, the soul battle is not over yet. It's good enough that he can suppress Dongfang Han's soul. How could he be cultivating? If there's the slightest mistake, Dongfang Han can detonate his soul and shatter his soul palace. Then, the soul fusion will happen. With Dongfang Han's inextinguishable will, his chances of winning are naturally higher. For a whole 4 months, Chen Hao sat cross-legged and did not move at all. Other than the constant influx of spiritual energy from the heavens and earth, the aura of the inextinguishable sword Wei remained stable. However, the aura of Chen Hao's inextinguishable sword Wei was nowhere to be seen. This situation made Bailey Ningbing very puzzled. However, she could not send out her divine sense into Chen Hao's light shield to investigate in detail. However, judging from the speed of the influx of spiritual energy, Chen Hao was cultivating. However, she felt that it was not possible. In fact, Chen Hao was indeed immersed in the cultivation of the art of immortality. Moreover, he had broken through 4 levels consecutively. On average, he broke through 1 level per month. Originally, with Chen Hao's level of comprehension and level, it was impossible for him to cultivate the first few levels of the art of immortality that were lower than his level to be so slow. The reason why it was slow was because most of his soul power and mind were used to suppress Dongfang Han, who would attack and curse wildly from time to time. First update. There's another update tonight. Chapter 491. Although Dongfang Han hasn't become a human immortal, I'm afraid he has already cultivated the immortal mantra. Immortality mantra. In 4 months, I've only cultivated the 4th level. Based on this speed, won't I need at least half the time to cultivate the immortality mantra? Too slow? No, I have to think of a way. I have to speed up. What should I do? When Chen Hao cultivated the 4th level of the immortality mantra, the mental mantra of the 5th level naturally flowed into his mind. Chen Hao had a feeling that to cultivate the 5th level, he would need at least a month. At this rate, it was too slow. He had been in a coma for 10 years and had just come out. He hadn't had time to understand the situation of the others from the Lung sisters and the others, and now he was in this situation. Anyone would be depressed. Dongfang Han obtained this inheritance because of the immortality mantra. He only suddenly rose in power in the past 6 months, and he came from the devil realm of the East continent. With his character, if his cultivation had surpassed mine, he wouldn't have concealed his identity and wouldn't have sought revenge on me. This means he must have come to the central continent 6 months ago and had just stepped into the half-step human immortal stage when he came. And this time, when I fought with him, he wanted to take over my body. If I'm not wrong, he must have had the experience of taking over someone else's body. Otherwise, how could he have improved so quickly? Moreover, Elder Shao once said about their master. Then the biggest possibility is that Dongfang Han obtained this inheritance in the immortal path of the East continent more than 10 years ago when his cultivation was very low. He obtained it when his cultivation was very low. Maybe this will work. After pondering for a short while, Chen Hao's mind flashed as he thought of a possibility. While fighting for the immortality world, I'll comprehend and cultivate at the same time. As long as I can refine a little, this immortality world will provide me with some help. I don't need much, just the space around me will be enough. That way, my soul strength will increase by several times. With this, it will become easier and easier for me. I can divide my attention more and more, and my speed will naturally be faster. I should have thought of this earlier. Let's begin. Hiss, hiss, hiss. In Dongfang Han's immortality world, Chen Hao's soul emitted rainbow-colored tentacles that spread into the surrounding space. This was definitely a very dangerous thing to do. After all, even though his soul was here, 90% of his soul power was suppressing Dongfang Han. The remaining 10% of his soul power still had to withstand the sword-intent attack of the undying and imperishable world. Furthermore, he had to split some of his attention and soul power. But Chen still did it. Level 5 success. Level 6 level. Level 9. Originally, Chen Hao needed 5 months to master the last 5 levels of the chant of eternal life. However, in just 2 months, Chen Hao had stepped into the 9th level of the chant of eternal life. Furthermore, in the undying and imperishable world, the area within 1,000 feet of him seemed to have become independent from the original world. Dongfang Han's attacks, which were controlled by his will, could not even get close to Chen Hao. Now, the two of them had entered a state of competition between refining and counter-refining. Chen Hao would snatch some, and Dongfang Han would snatch some back. They continued to enter a state of tug-of-war. What drove Dongfang Han crazy was that he clearly had the absolute advantage in terms of cultivation level, and this was originally his world. Yet, from beginning to end, it was enveloped by a mysterious and profound aura, causing Chen Hao's territory to slowly increase. Furthermore, as Chen Hao's cultivation of the art of immortality and indestructibility increased, the speed of his snatching also slowly increased. It's finally the immortality world. I'm afraid it'll take some time to comprehend this immortality world. Now, it's definitely not a problem for me to completely occupy this immortality world, but it'll definitely take a very, very long time. It's better to cultivate until I have the absolute advantage. Only then will I be able to destroy Dongfang Han's mental imprint as easily as crushing dry weeds. Let's begin. The last level of the immortality world took Chen Hao a month to comprehend. However, this was already considered fast. With Chen Hao's cultivation level, the 9th level of the immortality world was a domain that Chen Hao had yet to reach. Under such circumstances, it was impossible to complete it in a month without an extremely high level of comprehension. And now, the immortality world was at a level that Chen Hao had yet to reach. It could support the mental cultivation of an immortality world expert. Of course, Chen Hao knew that it would be even more difficult to cultivate. However, his soul realm had already reached the peak of the late Earth immortal stage. He would definitely be able to comprehend it. It was only a matter of time. In Chen Hao's opinion, it would be faster than stopping cultivation and directly refining the immortality world. Sharpening the axe would not delay the work of chopping wood, right? Chi. This, when Chen Hao was immersed in the first level of the immortality world, Bailey Ningbing, who was sitting cross-legged not far away, was suddenly awakened by the terrifying energy fluctuations of heaven and earth. How can it be so intense? Impossible. Bailey Ningbing couldn't believe her eyes. When Chen Hao was cultivating the immortality world secret, his rate of absorption of heaven and earth's energy was shocking, but it wasn't to the extent that Bailey Ningbing, who was at the human immortal stage, was shocked. But now, even if Mother absorbed heaven and earth's energy with all her might, she wouldn't be able to reach such a terrifying speed. She's at the peak of the late Earth immortal stage. And he's only at the creation stage. He's not even a human immortal. How can he reach such a speed? Could it be that he's really cultivating? And it's some kind of ultimate technique of the Earth immortal stage? At this moment, the space in the immortality world rippled. Greetings, Senior Heavenly Sovereign Yunru. No need for formalities. Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru's face was filled with shock. He didn't even look at Bailey Ningbing. He merely waved his hand and looked straight at Chen Hao. After a while, his gaze turned to intense joy. Good boy, you're really cultivating. And this aura, I didn't expect it to be like this. I really didn't expect this. No wonder the Patriarch isn't anxious. Everything is under the Patriarch's control, Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru murmured. Which one of them does it belong to? It should belong to Chen Hao. Otherwise, with the absolute advantage, it would have ended long ago. But now, strange, this is really strange. Could it be that Chen Hao has cultivated the immortality world secret? After a brief moment of pleasant surprise, Peril Yuanru sensed an aura that he couldn't be more familiar with coming from Chen Hao's body. He felt a bit confused. It should be. It seems like Fang Handong is hiding many secrets. His identity as the demon realm of the eastern continent must be fake. Senior Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru. Bailey Ningbing asked in confusion when Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru looked at her again. It's nothing. Have you comprehended anything? No. In the past few months, the aura of the undying sword Dao he's emanating has always been very weak. I can't capture much of it. How about this? It's useless for you to continue staying here. It's unlikely that the inheritance of the undying sword Dao will be separated from him. Moreover, Fang Handong basically has no hope of winning, so you'll have to rely on yourself to comprehend it. This chapter has fewer words. It's Friday today, and I forgot about I Am a Singer. This show is pretty good, I recommend it to everyone. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian.com. Chapter 492. Heavenly Lord Yuanru looked at Bailey Ningbing with a strange expression, then nodded and disappeared from the grotto heaven. Chi. 2 months later, a pure, heavy, and mysterious aura emanated from Chen Hao's body. It condensed into a ray of golden light, like an unearthly sword that pierced through the heavens and earth. It had transcended beyond Heavenly Lord Yuanru's grotto heaven. Bailey Ningbing's eyes widened in shock. At this moment, Chen Hao's handsome face and all of his exposed skin flickered with a dazzling golden light, and he gave others an aura that was ancient and eternal like the stars in the sky. The first stage, success. Although Chen Hao had used 90% of his soul energy to suppress Dongfang Han, he could still feel his own strength and the strength of his body at this moment. His body was like a sword, his heart was like a sword, his sword chi soared into the sky, and his sword will was indestructible. Whether it was the realm of the sword Dao, sword will, or the strength of his body, Chen Hao could clearly feel that he had truly improved. Huff, Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes. His deep black eyes emitted 2 rays of light that were as bright as the stars. It's only the first stage of the immortality technique, but it's already so powerful. I'm only at the blessed realm now, but I'm afraid even a mid-stage human immortal expert wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of my sword will. Chen Hao thought to himself. He inadvertently glanced at Bailey Ningbing, who was looking at him in surprise, and closed his eyes again. So strong. Chen Hao didn't know that his casual glance had caused Bailey Ningbing, who had already stepped into the human immortal realm, to feel her soul being imprisoned. An inexplicable fear rose in her heart. This was something that had never happened before when he met Heavenly Lord Yuanru. Of course, this didn't mean that Chen Hao was stronger than Heavenly Lord Yuanru. That was impossible. How many times stronger is he than Feng Handong? It's only been 9 months. Moreover, he had to divert a large portion of his soul energy and divine sense to suppress Feng Handong, and yet he's already so strong. Chen Hao. No, how can I be? This. Just as Bailey Ningbing was in a trance and lost her calm, Emperor Yuanru appeared once again. Compared to the last time, his gaze was even more shocked. He stared blankly at the gradually dissipating sword light, his lips and beard trembling slightly. So Dongfang Han has only comprehended the first level of the immortal mantra, but why is there such a huge difference between him and me despite being at the same level? Now, if I use all my strength to seize the immortal and indestructible inheritance, I can succeed in half a year at most. After Chen Hao closed his eyes, his consciousness jumped out of his physical body and fused into his soul again. He thought to himself as he sensed the vast, undying and imperishable world. Let's break through to the second layer in one go. Chen Hao once again separated his divine sense and began to cultivate. Impossible, impossible. They were at the same level, so why was he so strong? Am I really not as good as him? Are you really inferior to him? Why? Dongfang Han, who was suppressed by Chen Hao's divine sense, could clearly sense the situation in the immortal and indestructible world. Originally, when Chen Hao chose this method, he thought Chen Hao was purely seeking death, but the ideal was perfect, but the reality was cruel. Chen Hao's endurance was 10 times, 100 times stronger than he imagined. What destroyed his soul even more was that Chen Hao actually discovered the secret of the immortal and indestructible world. Using the art of longevity as a guide, he began to seize the immortal and indestructible world's inheritance. At that moment, he went crazy, but even though he had the absolute advantage in terms of level, he couldn't stop Chen Hao from slowly seizing it. But is it because I've cultivated other inner force unique skills? The heavens are blind. Dongfang Han, who had never truly despaired, was really despairing at this moment. He always thought that what he lacked was luck and opportunity. Compared to Chen Hao, he was stronger in terms of comprehension, aptitude, and temperament. One day he would be able to ruthlessly trample on Chen Hao, but, in fact, Dongfang Han had guessed correctly. Strictly speaking, Dongfang Han's temperament, aptitude, and comprehension were comparable to Chen Hao in all aspects. Even if he was a little inferior, it was limited. They were both in the soul stage of the Earth's celestial stage and had cultivated the same cultivation method, so the gap between them should be very small. To be exact, at the beginning, Chen Hao wanted to seize the immortal and indestructible world and cultivate at the same time. It was impossible for him to do that. But Chen Hao did it. And when he reached this stage, he was more than 10 times stronger than Dongfang Han. The fundamental reason was that Dongfang Han didn't cultivate the art of longevity when he was a child. Instead, he cultivated a low-level inner force mental cultivation method. And Elder Shao, who obtained the first half of the art of longevity, led Chen Hao to start with the art of longevity from the beginning. Chen Hao was the real authentic art of longevity. Hope, where's the hope? Where's the hope? No! I don't want to die like this, I don't want to die like this. Even if I die, I will peel off a layer of skin from you. Dongfang Han, in a state of true despair, finally made a desperate struggle. What? Chen Hao, who had been paying attention to Dongfang Han, wasn't too surprised when he saw this scene. He didn't even move and let Dongfang Han do whatever he wanted. Of course, he knew the consequences of Dongfang Han's self-detonation of his soul strength. It was nothing more than a desperate attempt to destroy all his soul strength. For ordinary people, this would cause serious consequences. But for Chen Hao, it wasn't the case. Soul strength was fundamentally different from true core strength. After true core strength was consumed, it could be recovered quickly through cultivation. But after soul strength was consumed, it couldn't be recovered at all. Of course, it wasn't impossible to improve it. After Chen Hao stepped into the human celestial stage, his soul strength would naturally increase. The amount of increase was fixed. But last time, after burning his soul strength, Chen Hao, who had a mutated soul strength, had been in a mysterious state for 10 years. His soul strength was no longer irrecoverable under the same cultivation stage. Come on, Although Chen Hao didn't care, he still stopped his cultivation at this time. His soul strength didn't move, but a part of his soul strength was used to resist Dongfang Han's madness. Before your soul strength dissipates, I might as well tell you that my soul strength can recover by itself, Chen Hao was in a good mood and laughed loudly. The grudge of many years was finally going to be completely resolved. Of course, he was excited and even proud. Impossible? Rumble. Nothing is impossible. Go and regret it. 10 years ago, my soul strength was severely damaged. Until now, my cultivation stage hasn't improved. Why is my soul strength perfect? Are you an idiot? Okay, you can't verify it. Rumble, there were continuous explosions. Chen Hao's soul strength and Dongfang Han's terrifying soul strength seemed to have turned into the most terrifying mysterious fire, burning fiercely. Cough cough. I really can't calm down. My speed is already slow. Under such a state of mind, it's really torturous. That's all for today, and the word count is a little short. The results should be out in the next 2 days. If this continues, I'm going to go crazy. Please understand that I rely on writing for a living. I can't not care at this time. Chapter 493. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Dongfang Han's heart-wrenching screams gradually weakened until they were drowned out by the terrifying explosion of soul power. Pooh! Streams of blood spurted out from Chen Hao's body like a fountain. The terrifying explosion of soul power and Dongfang Han's desperate counterattack caused Chen Hao's soul power to be burnt by 90%. At the same time, his state of mind was also severely affected. In the end, he was unable to completely stabilize his body. Phew! It's over, it's finally over. Chen Hao exhaled weakly but felt extremely relaxed. From the beginning of his training until now, Dongfang Han could be said to be the only opponent that could truly threaten him. Although later on, Chen Hao's cultivation level increased and his continuous protection of the Xiao family increased, he did not take it to heart. But every time he thought of Dongfang Han's scheming, he would feel a sense of unease. Not towards himself, but towards the Xiao family. At this moment, it had finally been completely resolved. The shadow that had haunted Chen Hao for so many years had finally disappeared. Condense. Not daring to waste any time, Chen Hao gathered his remaining soul power and gathered all the shattered, colorless and formless soul fragments. I'm curious how this guy managed to avoid being hunted down until now. Also, he must have many secrets on him. Once I've completely refined these soul fragments, I'll know. Hee. Chen Hao wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and looked indifferently at Bailey Ningbing, who was staring at him. Then he closed his eyes again. Refining the soul fragments, although it was not the same as soul fusion where one could obtain Dongfang Han's complete memories, but one could still obtain a lot of information. It's already been a year and 3 months. Sister, the vice principal said that Brother Hao would come out in a few days. But it's already been a month. Why is there still no news? Don't worry, the vice principal was only guessing when he told us. Anyway, it's already confirmed that Brother Hao will definitely win. We just have to wait patiently. It shouldn't be too long. Let's go, we'll go find Sister Xue and the rest. Leng Ning Lu and Leng Ning Huan were discussing in a low voice within a training room in the Elite Academy's core. After saying that, they each picked up a silver, exquisitely made hat beside them. To be precise, it should be a helmet. If Chen Hao saw it, he would definitely think that it was a gaming helmet from Earth that was not technologically mature. In fact, the function of this helmet was similar to the game helmets on Earth, except that it was hundreds and thousands of times more advanced and had reached 100% realism. It could even be said that it was a powerful magic treasure that could allow cultivators to enter the real virtual universe, the Soul Realm Helmet. The Spirit Helmet brought cultivators into the virtual universe known as the Second Universe. When a cultivator's divine consciousness entered it, their perception would be 100% the same as the real thing. 10 years ago, if Chen Hao had the opportunity to participate in the Elite Academy's assessment, and if he had been able to break into the top 1,000 of the entire Elite Academy, he would have had the opportunity to obtain the Soul Helmet. This was a way to obtain it in advance before becoming a human immortal. Cultivators who had become human immortals would be able to obtain them. This meant that the minimum requirement to enter the Second Universe was human immortal. It was just that Limitless Star was but one of the most ordinary life planets in the vast universe. Only Spirit City and Elite Academy X could connect to the virtual universe with the Spirit Helmets, allowing practitioners from all over the universe to gather in the virtual world at any time. Yo, aren't these the beautiful sisters of Wuji Star? Have you thought about it? 2 rays of white light flashed, and the beautiful sisters of the Lung family appeared in a huge city. A bustling crowd walked through it. At a glance, it was 100 times, 1,000 times more prosperous than any city in the real world. Any cultivator who entered the Second Universe for the first time would be shocked by the aura of the heavenly Tao that filled the air. If one were to comprehend the heavenly Tao here, it would definitely be 10 times, 100 times stronger than anywhere else in the real world. However, not long after the beautiful sisters sent out the message through the communicator in the Second Universe, they saw someone they did not want to see. Let's go! Leng Ning Huan pulled Leng Ning Li's hand without saying a word. Without even looking at the person, they turned around and wanted to go around the person. Hee, you really don't know what's good for you. It's your good fortune that I've taken a liking to you. If you agree now, there will be benefits for you in the future. When the Wuji Star is bought by my family, it will be different. The person's figure flashed and blocked the beautiful sisters once again. He said arrogantly and disdainfully. His aura was also that of a human immortal, and he looked like a young man in his 20s. Beside him were 5 other young men with mocking faces. Obviously, they were not good people. However, the crowd who saw this scene did not dare to say anything. They even quietly retreated, as if this had nothing to do with them. Scram! At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared and blocked the beautiful sisters of the Lung family. Sister Shui. Qin Shui? TSK. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you've become a level 1 elite disciple. Let me tell you, 1 month later, I, Shimin Feng, will be promoted to a level 1 elite. I've said it before, all of you in the Wuji Star will become my slaves. Clang! Scram! Chen Shui's face became extremely cold at this moment. However, she did not say anything and directly drew her sword. A sharp and cold aura instantly covered a radius of 100 feet. Let's go! Although the young man who called himself Shimin Feng was extremely arrogant, a trace of fear flashed across his face. He glared at Chen Shui fiercely and left with the other young men. Sister Shui, you know this shameless person? There's no one in the Wuji Star who doesn't know him. Why is he looking for trouble with us? You just stepped into the Second Universe not long ago. There are many things that you don't know. Let's go to our residence first. Chen Shui frowned and shook her head. At this moment, even the beautiful sisters could see that Chen Shui was worried. The 3 of them used their fastest speed to arrive at a slightly shabby courtyard at the edge of the city. Such a shabby courtyard was quite luxurious for cultivators who were qualified to enter the Second Universe. Of course, this referred to cultivators in the Wuji Star. Even Venerable Celestial Han Mei, Venerable Celestial Yun Wei, and the others did not have their own residence. A few years ago, when Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tantai Lian stepped into the human celestial stage one after another, Venerable Celestial Han Mei and Venerable Celestial Yun Wei used their savings to buy this courtyard in the second universe. Although it was shabby, as long as one entered it, they would be able to cultivate in peace. It was much better than comprehending the law of heaven in the outside world. Moreover, it could be a place for everyone to gather. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 494. Phew. You've been guarding me here for more than a year. You're really patient. What do you want from me? Oh no, Dongfang Han? What do you want from him? Immortal Sword Dao? Another month later, within the abode, Chen Hao opened his eyes in high spirits, and his spirit, energy, and essence were filled to the extreme. Moreover, the aura of his entire body had even undergone a shocking change. Obviously, his soul and mental state had obtained an extremely great improvement. Faced with Chen Hao's bright eyes and direct questioning, Bailey Ningbing frowned. Although she did not avoid his gaze in the slightest, her heart skipped a beat for no reason. As a girl favored by the heavens, she had always been conceited and had the right to be conceited. Among her peers, no one had ever caught her attention in terms of appearance, talent, and realm. Until Fang Handong and Chen Hao appeared. Fang Handong's admiration for her at first sight and his humility to please her made her feel even more complacent and proud deep in her heart. All these factors gave her absolute confidence that she could conquer Chen Hao. Especially this time, she had taken the initiative. But now, faced with Chen Hao's cold gaze and slightly teasing tone, she realized that the man in front of her was fundamentally different from Dongfang Han. Not only did he not show any interest in her appearance, but he also seemed to be dismissive of her talent, identity, and status. You don't have to answer. Whether it's true or not, I'll disappoint you. Chen Hao waved his hand to stop Bailey Ningbing when she opened her mouth to speak. At the same time, he sent out a stream of energy directly into the protective light shield. In the blink of an eye, Heavenly Lord Yunru appeared in the grotto heaven. Done? Yes. Thank you for your help in the past year. Chen Hao smiled and cupped his fists. In the past year, especially when he cultivated the immortal technique, Heavenly Lord Yuanru did not make a move, but he was still a great help to Chen Hao. Without the endless supply of energy from the grotto heaven, Chen Hao's speed would be greatly reduced. You're welcome. Looks like you've recovered well. Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru's eyes burned like torches, as if he wanted to see through Chen Hao. Unfortunately, even he couldn't sense the extent to which Chen Hao's soul had recovered. In the cultivation world of the Wuji planet, even the palace masters of the three major palaces didn't think that soul wounds could be truly healed. This was because a spiritual medicine that could truly repair the soul was not something they could afford. When Dongfang Han had not hesitated to use his life to heavily injure Chen Hao's soul, Yuanru Sky Sovereign had already known about it. Unfortunately, he had not been able to stop it. He had not expected Dongfang Han to be so decisive. However, he wasn't really worried. He believed that the limitless ancestor would definitely repair Chen Hao at all costs, because this was probably the only hope of the limitless star. So, Senior, can I leave now? Chen Hao asked. Of course you can. Old man isn't imprisoning you. Now that the results are out, you are free. However, the Patriarch wants to see you. I'll take you to him now. Cough cough. Senior, are you talking about the limitless ancestor? Of course. Who else on the limitless star is worthy of being addressed as the Patriarch? Senior, I'm more than happy to see the Patriarch, but I've just woken up, and I'm not even a human immortal yet. I don't want to leave the limitless star yet. You're thinking too much. Why would you need to leave the limitless star to see the Patriarch? You'll know once you get out of my grotto heaven. Also, don't call me Senior anymore. Call me Senior Brother. Senior Brother? Chen Hao asked in surprise. Yuanru's Sky Sovereign smiled mysteriously. He didn't answer the surprised Chen Hao for now. Instead, he looked at Bailey Ningbing, who looked a little embarrassed and curious. Bailey Ningbing, old man has done what he promised your grandfather. Now, let me send you back. Senior, wait. Bailey Ning Bing wanted to say something else, but was sent out of the grotto heaven by Yuanru Sky Sovereign's power. Ha! Yuanru Sky Sovereign's expression turned even more amiable as he walked up to Chen Hao. Little junior brother, you already had the right to be my junior brother when you started cultivating the longevity art. Now that you've obtained the undying and indestructible legacy Master left behind, you're naturally Master's last disciple. Senior. Chen Hao was taken aback. He'd only thought that it was because of his talent. He'd never thought that it had anything to do with the undying and indestructible legacy. Yunru Sky Sovereign's words confirmed his suspicions. The longevity art was the key to obtaining the undying and indestructible legacy. Senior? Alright, I'll explain it to you first. When you see Master, you'll naturally understand what's going on. I'm sure you've already guessed who our Master is? After all, it's no secret that I'm the Patriarch's fourth disciple. As he spoke, Chen Hao appeared in a large hall under Yuanru Sky Sovereign's control without even feeling it. Chen Hao, on the other hand, was deeply ashamed. At best, he only knew the honorific titles or titles of Heavenly Lord Yuanru and Patriarch Wuji in the world of cultivation. The only thing he knew about their relationship was that they were the principal and vice principal of the elite academy of Wuji. How would he know that they were master and disciple? 5,000 years ago, Master left behind 5 great legacies in the mundane world of the boundless planet. 4 of them were obtained by eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, and I. Among the 4, I was the latest to obtain it. I only obtained it 2,000 years ago. Your undying and indestructible legacy is one of the 5 legacies Master left behind. It's also the strongest of the 5 legacies. In fact, only the undying and indestructible legacy was what Master looked forward to the most. Fortunately, you appeared. This, senior brother, to tell you the truth, this legacy was originally Fang Handong's, Chen Hao said bluntly. Ha, even if you didn't say it, I'd have guessed it. It's just that I found it strange at first. After Fang Handong obtained the undying and indestructible legacy, even if he was 2 realms higher than him, it would be impossible to defeat him in a battle of the soul, let alone those of the same realm. But you did it. I won't hide it from you. During this period of time, I went to the mundane world of the eastern continent to find out what happened. Yuanru Sky Sovereign briefly told Chen Hao about the information he'd obtained from Venerable Han Mei and the others, as well as the information he'd obtained from Elder Shao of the Shao family in the mundane world of the eastern continent. Fortunately, Dongfang Han became a monk halfway through cultivating the art of longevity. Otherwise, the one who's alive now wouldn't be you, it's just luck. Hearing Yuanru Sky Sovereign's words, Chen Hao didn't explain. In Chen Hao's opinion, even without the art of longevity, he wouldn't necessarily lose to Dongfang Han. It was just that he needed more time to win. The injury to your soul should be quite serious, right? But you don't have to worry. On the Wuji planet, although no one can afford to buy the spirit medicine that can truly heal the injury, Master will definitely do his best to help you heal and nurture you wholeheartedly. Second update. Try to write the 3rd update before 12 o'clock. Chapter 495. Heavenly Lord Yuanru looked at Chen Hao eagerly, and his tone was very certain. This made Chen Hao faintly feel a trace of strangeness. Chen Hao always believed that there was no free lunch in the world, and there would not be a free lunch for no reason. Even Heavenly Lord Yuanru could easily kill him, let alone the Wuji Patriarch. There was no doubt that he had taken a fancy to his potential. Even so, he should not be so enthusiastic, right? There was a limit to everything. Once the limit was exceeded, the effect might be the opposite, especially when it came to nurturing disciples. But Heavenly Lord Yuanru did not seem to care about this, and he directly admitted the importance of Chen Hao. In this situation, it was easy to make disciples arrogant and domineering. Chen Hao did not think that Heavenly Lord Yuanru did not understand this. Sigh. Little junior brother, to tell you the truth, Wuji Star has reached the moment of life and death. There are still 50 years left. Master can't nurture a real genius disciple who can take over his position. Wuji star will be reduced to a slave planet, and it will be difficult for us to rise again. Including you and me, including any race in the Wuji star zone, will be branded as slaves. The legacy you received is the strongest legacy that Master left behind. Although it is immortal, there is no such thing as immortality in the world of cultivation. Only true strength is eternal. Master can only last for 50 years at most. Okay, I know what I'm saying now is too heavy for you. After all, you haven't even reached the human celestial stage. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to save the Wuji star with your strength. I don't want you to realize your potential. When you see Master, he will tell you this. Okay, take this with you. Heavenly Lord Yunru looked at Chen Hao, who was frowning and thinking, and explained. After that, he took out 2 spiritual helmets and handed one of them to Chen Hao. What is this? Chen Hao did not understand. Spiritual helmet. It is comparable to a superior grade spiritual treasure. However, its function is different from that of defensive equipment. This is something that only outstanding disciples who have reached the human immortal realm or ranked in the top 1,000 in the Elite Academy's potential test, which is held every 60 years, can know. Through him, your consciousness can enter the second world. The second world? Is it a virtual world? Chen Hao's face glowed with excitement. When he was on Earth, he had also done his best to research the virtual world. The highest achievement was also created by him, but he had never been able to achieve satisfactory results. Virtual world? You could say that. However, this was not a completely virtual world, but a different existence from the real world. This was the 4th master of vast universe galaxy and also the strongest master of his generation. He had condensed this mysterious world with an unsurpassed supernatural power. To be more accurate, this was a world formed by his own body. Compared to a true great world, there was no difference in essence. But in terms of carrying a life form, it was unique. None of us can enter it with our physical bodies, but through this spirit realm helmet, which is condensed with a special ability, we can let our minds enter it. The spirit realm helmet will transform our minds into a version of ourselves in the second world according to our actual situation. There are a lot of benefits to be gained from it. So miraculous. Emperor Yuanru's few simple sentences made Chen Hao even more excited. Of course, for our vast universe galaxy to stand tall for trillions of years without falling, I don't dare to say that this is all thanks to the second world, but it is nearly all thanks to it. The time laws of the second world are different from the outside world. A day in the outside world is 10 days in the second world. If it was just this, it wouldn't be much. But the key point is that the heavenly Tao laws of the second world are extremely rich. If we meditate and meditate there, the effects will be 10 times or even 100 times better than the outside world. Of course, this is only in terms of the state of mind. Amazing! I never thought that there would be such a miraculous thing. Chen Hao said. This is only one of the benefits. There are also all sorts of special cultivation holy lands that can provide you with all sorts of imaginary opponents according to your wishes. You can die without limit, and every time you die, it will be a true feeling. How great of a benefit is this to tempering one's state of mind? On our limitless star, there are all sorts of genius selections, and countless disciples often perish in the competition. But this sort of situation doesn't occur in the second world. In order to avoid death and injury, there are no rules for the competition. Of course, in order to obtain such a unique cultivation environment, there are conditions. Also, after stepping out of Limitless Star, your family and friends will all have their own destinations, their own futures. If you don't have a second world, then it will be far too difficult for you to pass on a message or meet with them. There is no communication magic tool that can connect to a planet, but there is no problem with the second world. Alright, as for the specifics, you will only know after you experience it for yourself. What I have said is only a small part of it. Oh, I can enter if I wear this helmet? First, drip a drop of blood on it and then push your true essence and thoughts to the limit and pour them into it. Every time you enter, you must do this. Like this, after you enter, Your strength will be the same as it is now. Do you see this serial number? This is your communication serial number after you enter the second world. This helmet is specially designed and cannot be changed. After you enter the second world, you will automatically receive information about the second world. This is my serial number. After you enter the second world, send me a message and tell me your location. I will go and find you. Okay, then I will start now. Chen Hao said eagerly. Swish. After that, Chen Hao imitated Heavenly Master Yuanru. He sat down cross-legged and put on the helmet. Then he forced out a drop of blood essence and poured it into the helmet. Immediately, his true essence and thoughts started to run violently and rushed into the helmet. Buzz. All of a sudden, rays of silver light rose from the helmet and illuminated the entire palace. Chen Hao clearly felt his soul shake, and then he appeared in a magical space. Chen Hao didn't know that when his mind entered the second world, Heavenly Master Yuanru, who was sitting next to him, opened his eyes wide in shock. His essence, qi, and soul are full to such an extent. Especially the pressure of his soul power, it seems to show signs of breaking through to the Earth's celestial stage. How is this possible? His soul should have been seriously injured. Heavenly Master Yuanru was completely petrified. He knew how badly Chen Hao's soul was hurt by Dongfang Han's desperate counterattack. However, when Chen Hao used all his strength, his soul didn't seem to be injured at all. Truly amazing. Master has really picked up a treasure this time. Heavenly Lord Yuanru was stunned for a good 2 minutes before he said excitedly, perhaps there really is hope for the boundless star, third watch. If nothing goes wrong, tomorrow will be the third watch. It won't be like today's third watch. It will be the real third watch. Please don't scold me, please encourage me, please support me. Chapter 496. Amazing! Truly amazing! Only the word magical could describe Chen Hao's current feelings. It's just a strand of my consciousness. Now, I'm still aware of the situation outside. It doesn't even affect the cultivation of my real body. However, in this second world, with just a strand of my consciousness, I can reconstruct a body and soul that are exactly the same as my real body. If this were to be done using the so-called science on Earth, it would be basically impossible to achieve, right? At least, I'll never be able to do it. When Heavenly Lord Yuanru had introduced this world to him, Chen Hao had thought that the second world was at most a virtual world that was 100% realistic. However, after entering it for real, Chen Hao realized that this was definitely not something that could be described with the word realistic. It was also not something that the virtual world on Earth could compare to. Even if future technology could achieve 100% realism, it would still be incomparable. This was because, fundamentally speaking, these were two completely different concepts. A strand of consciousness could reconstruct a body and soul that were exactly the same as the outside world. Moreover, just as Heavenly Lord Yuanru had said, this was another kind of reality. What was even more amazing was that the spiritual energy and laws of heaven and earth were many times stronger than those of the outside world. The laws of time were also different. Although cultivating here could not affect the real body, the significance to cultivators was definitely heaven-defying. Imagine when a cultivator reached a bottleneck and needed to meditate and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth to understand the barrier. How many times more efficient would it be? How many times more efficient would it be when one needed to comprehend and cultivate ultimate techniques? Beep, beep, beep. A crisp notification sound appeared in Chen Hao's mind. Like the virtual game space mode, the basic information of the second world appeared in Chen Hao's mind. Cough, cough. Isn't this communication method just email, real-time call, and video call? No, the form is the same but the method of realization is different. This is a real big world. In other words, everything is achieved through secret techniques and divine powers, not through wireless signals. There's also an information exchange platform, fuck. I can even search for the person I'm looking for. I can also set up my own information. Invincible? Chen Hao read the information in his mind and became more and more excited. In the past, Chen Hao had thought about what would happen when he stepped into the human celestial realm and started his adventures in the higher planes. But at that time, he was more or less entangled and conflicted. The reason was simple. Along the way, he had left his brothers and sisters, relatives and friends far behind. On the one hand, he longed for the vast world of cultivation and the peak of martial arts. On the other hand, he longed for his family, friends, and brothers and sisters. He knew clearly what would happen once he stepped out of the Wuji star. At that time, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to reunite with them for 10 years, 100 years, or even hundreds of years. It had to be said that this was the fetters in Chen Hao's heart. More or less, this was the real reason why Chen Hao would not take the initiative to attack unless he was in a certain situation where he could not restrain himself. But now, the appearance of the second world instantly resolved the conflict in Chen Hao's heart. Distant worlds are close neighbors. Phew, I didn't expect this world to be so magical and wonderful. In the future, even if I step into the starry sky, no matter when or where, as long as I am within the coverage of the second world, I can see the people I want to meet at any time. That's great. Can search. Let's try it first. Name, Chen Shui, gender, female, planet, Wuji star, age. Simulated image. Searching. Beep beep beep. No? It seems that they have set up a no search. Search Haolian Wuzi. Rejected. Xia Yuyu, rejected. Tantai Lian, rejected. It seems that these girls have set up a no search function. That's right. I can find their communication numbers by searching images. With their looks, if they don't set up a no search function, I don't know how many flies will come to harass them. Heh. The 4 girls that Chen Hao hadn't seen for more than 11 years appeared in his mind. A proud and warm feeling welled up in his heart. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, Chen Hao received a video communication request in his mind. Little junior brother, it's amazing, isn't it? When Chen Hao accepted the call, Heavenly Lord Yuanru appeared in his mind and asked with a smile. It's amazing, huh? You can experience it later. Tell me where you are, I'll go find you now. Upon hearing Heavenly Lord Yuanru's words, Chen Hao raised his head and looked at the crowd and buildings around him. He then described his current location to Heavenly Lord Yuan. Divine powers are divine powers. It'll be more convenient if I can combine it with the technology on Earth. I just need to digitize the space of the second world and specify the origin of the 3-dimensional coordinates. Then I can determine my location through the coordinates. At least I don't have to describe it so much. When the cultivators of Wuji Star appeared in the second world for the first time, they appeared in Yang City. Yang City was one of the 3rd-tier cities in the second world. Apart from Wuji Star, cultivators from thousands of other planets would appear here for the first time. In fact, the second world was a miniature version of the vast universe galaxy. Yang City corresponded to Yang Star in the vast universe galaxy. Yang Star was the core planet of the 1008 planets, including Wuji Star. It was also the center where cultivators of the human immortal stage and above gathered. At a glance, one could easily catch a handful of human immortals. Earth immortals were also common, but celestial immortals were rare. Moreover, what surprised Chen Hao was that the life forms from the various planets were not as strange as he had imagined. They were not much different from those on Wuji Star and all had obvious human characteristics. Moreover, there were quite a number of cultivators who were only in the creation realm or even lower. Humph, the tiny Wuji planet is ranked at the bottom among the 1008 planets in Yang City. If no real geniuses are born in the next 50 years, it will be replaced by other planets and become a slave planet. Then, it will be put up for auction. Given the strength of my family, it will be easy for us to get it. When that time comes, I'll see how these little girls can still be so arrogant in front of me. That's right, that's right. Boss Shiman, you're the first heir of the Shiman family. Just say the word and your family will help you get it? Don't talk nonsense. I'm just the second heir. It's too early to say that. The young man who was flattered was Shiman Feng, who had just been entangled with the beautiful sisters of the Lung family and Chen Shui. Although he denied the flattery of the young man beside him, The expression on his face showed that he was enjoying it. However, Boss Shimin, although the natives of Wuji Star are not talented, they are full of beautiful women and handsome men. Once they become a slave planet, I guess many big forces will bid for them. That's true. Look, this guy is quite handsome. Well, he's super handsome. TSK, I'm drooling. He's only in the creation stage. He must be a genius disciple of Wuji Star, right? Shimin Feng, who was surrounded by several young men, looked at a young man who was standing on the spot and looking around. That young man was Chen Hao. He had a tall and slender figure, a peerlessly handsome face, and jade-like skin. He was handsome but not lacking in masculinity. The otherworldly presence he exuded caused him to stand out among the crowd even though he was only in Blessed Realm, and he was exceptionally dazzling and eye-catching. When the few people looked at Chen Hao and walked towards him, Chen Hao also averted his gaze from the distance and looked at them. His expression was calm and composed, and his gaze was calm, but there was a boundless fierceness and coldness in it. In truth, Chen Hao was filled with curiosity towards this new world. He had been paying attention to the conversations of the people around him, and it was precisely because of this that Chen Hao had heard all their conversations. Brat, you're from Wuji Star? What an arrogant gaze. I like it. What's your name? What's your communication number? Follow our boss Shimin in the future, and you'll get plenty of benefits. The corners of Shimin Feng's mouth curled up slightly, and he looked at Chen Hao indifferently. He did not say anything, but he did not stop his lackey from teasing him. Such a handsome guy was very rare. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in the middle of a busy city, he definitely wouldn't be polite. After all, due to his identity, he couldn't reveal his special hobby to the public even though it wasn't a secret. In fact, in many large families, there were quite a few who had this hobby. It was just that no one would reveal it to the public. Yes, he was the legendary type who liked both men and women. Regardless of whether his lackey was real or fake, under his tyrannical power, they at least behaved. How could they not be moved by a rare handsome man like Chen Hao? Get lost. Yo, you're like that little girl, you've got character. Brat, you probably don't know who our boss Shimin is, right? He's one of the 5 big families on the Ying planet, Shimin Feng, young Master Shimin. Forget it, you probably still don't know. Only those who have reached the human immortal stage on your small planet are qualified to enter the Yang planet. You only need to know that if you acknowledge us as your boss now, you'll get plenty of benefits in the future. I dare not say that you can do whatever you want in the vast universe galaxy, but within the jurisdiction of the Yang planet, there won't be any problems. What do you think? Hearing this, Chen Hao frowned slightly. Before entering the second world, he knew nothing about anything outside the Wuji planet. It could be said that all his knowledge was limited to what he had just heard. At first, he wanted to attack directly. After all, there were no rules in the second world. As long as he wanted to, he could start a massacre at any time and even do whatever he wanted. Of course, the premise was that he had the ability to do so. But now, after hearing this, Chen Hao did not immediately attack. Is that so? Why did you choose me for such a good job? First update. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian.com. Chapter 497. Indeed, there's no free lunch in this world. There's a reason why we think highly of you. The person who spoke looked at Chen Hao with bright eyes. He paused for a while and then said, one of the reasons is that our boss has taken a liking to a few female disciples from the Wuji Star. They've just reached the human celestial stage. I think you know them. Maybe they can help our boss. Of course, this is not enough. It depends on your performance in the future. Oh, brother, what's the name of the female disciple that you've taken a liking to? I don't know any female disciple from the Wuji Star who's just reached the human celestial stage. Tell me about it. Chen Hao smiled and said with interest. With Chen Hao's shrewdness and sharp soul perception, how could he not see the lustful light in the depths of these people's eyes when they looked at him? However, although Chen Hao was disgusted, he did not show it. That's good. Do you know Chen Shui? Chen Shui? Chen Hao's expression changed dramatically. He seemed to be surprised and confused. In fact, when he heard these guys talking, Chen Hao had guessed a possibility. However, there were so many human celestials on the Wuji star. Chen Hao did not think it was a coincidence. However, when the guy said that he was looking for a female disciple who had just reached the human celestial stage, Chen Hao had a feeling that this might be a coincidence. As expected, the guy said Chen Shue's name. "Ha, it seems you know her? And you know her?" "That's right. Yes, we do." "I'm very sorry, Chen Shui is my cultivation partner." "What? Boy, are you kidding? Chen Shui has the vital Yin body. How could she be your cultivation partner? Who said that cultivation partners must be done in advance? With our talents, we're not at the stage where we need to do that." Chen Hao asked calmly. "That's good. The first thing you need to do now is to give up on Chen Shui." Help me deal with her. Is that okay?" Shimin Feng finally spoke. His expression was arrogant, but there was no anger in his eyes when he looked at Chen Hao. Instead, there was a trace of eagerness. "Ah." Chen Hao couldn't help but laugh out loud and said, "Are you sick, or do you think I'm sick? This joke isn't funny at all." "Ha, I don't think it's fun either. All right, since Chen Shui is your Dao companion, then this young master can choose to give up. Moreover, this young master will allow you to bring her along and follow me. This young master has his eyes on a few more. As long as you can introduce them to me or create some opportunities for me, it's fine, right? Whether there's a problem or not, you have to tell me who it is. I can't agree so easily." Chen Hao had the urge to immediately beat this guy to death. How could he not see through this guy's intentions? Killing two birds with one stone, and even killing himself. This was truly the highest grade of abnormal, to the point that there was no lower limit. However, Chen Hao still endured it. He really wanted to know how coincidental it was. "Yes, you should know the other few as well. They are very familiar with Chen Shui. Oh? Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu and Tantai Lian 3? Ah, that's right. There are also two who have just entered the second world for a little over a year. I don't know what their names are because they haven't appeared in Ying City yet. I only know that they are a pair of sisters." "Completely correct. How is it?" Facing Shimin Feng's eager and expectant gaze, Chen Hao's eyes did not evade in the slightest. After staring straight at the other party for a few seconds, he suddenly chuckled. The corner of his mouth inadvertently hooked up into a bewitching arc, and he faintly said, "Nothing much. So handsome." Shimin Feng, who liked both men and women, had seen countless people. Who knew how many handsome men and beautiful women he had tasted? However, he had never thought that one day he would actually become infatuated because of a man's evil smile. At this moment, he didn't even care about what Chen Hao said. He only felt that his heart, which had been on the battlefield for a long time, was deeply captivated. Chen Hao originally thought that his provocative and disdainful reply would cause the other party to immediately flip out, but now, Shimin Feng's expression made him a little dumbfounded. What was this situation? "Kid, what do you mean?" At this moment, the guy whose status was obviously second only to Shimin Feng stretched out his hand to strangle Chen Hao's neck. Slap. Chen Hao was as fast as lightning and slapped the other party's hand away. At this moment, Shimin Feng also suddenly came back to his senses and hurriedly said, "Yes, you. What do you mean?" "Chiu, don't do it first." Cough cough, okay?" The youth who was called Chiu by Shimin Feng was slightly taken aback when he heard Shimin Feng's words. Shortly after, he awkwardly coughed twice and replied. When he looked at Chen Hao again, the depths of his gaze were filled with jealousy and enmity. Similarly, the other youths were also secretly muttering in their hearts. Not to mention anything else, just by looking at Shimin Feng's expression at this moment, they knew that once Chen Hao joined them, it would absolutely cause them to lose favor and their status would drop by one place. "You, what do you mean?" "Say it, don't worry. I won't do anything to you." This time, Chen Hao really wanted to vomit. He had guessed the process but not the ending. How could it be like this? He should have been very angry and then attacked, and then he would not hesitate to experience the battle experience in the second world, but the result was actually such a huge contrast. That affectionate gaze made Qin Hao have the urge to find a piece of tofu and kill himself. It was too fucking disgusting. It's very simple. They are all my Dao companions. Scram. Hurry up and scram. Forget it, I'll scram. Remember, no matter who you are, if you dare to touch my women, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Hiss. Cough. Accompanied by the sound of vomiting, Chen Hao was like a wisp of green smoke, disappearing in front of Shimin Feng and the others like a spark of lightning. Want to run? Stuff. Cough cough. Boss Shimin. Faced with Shimin Feng's shout, the few of them stopped with black lines all over their faces. Immediately, catch a few Wuji Star cultivators for me. You can pay anything as long as you know, he is. Boss Shimin, go. Yes. Seeing the few people around him leave quickly, Shimin Feng's eyes were a little dazed as he looked in the direction Chen Hao disappeared. He trembled as he clenched his fists. Never has anyone made my heart tremble like this. Finally found my true love. Cough cough. Fuck his mother. How can there be such a disgusting person? Chen Hao, who had already escaped tens of miles away, was still retching. Fortunately, there was nothing in his stomach, otherwise he would really vomit. Of course, if Chen Hao could hear Shimin Feng's so-called true love from the depths of his soul, he would probably be disgusted to death. Cough cough. You overestimated my speed. Shrink a bit, I'll update this chapter first. Come out around 12 o'clock, I'll update as many words as I can. Chapter 498. Phew. Chen Hao, who had faced countless life and death situations, had not been able to shake his state of mind. However, this time, it took him a full minute to calm himself down. Beep, beep, beep. Chen Hao contacted Heavenly Master Yuanru and reported his new location. A few minutes later, Heavenly Master Yuanru finally appeared in front of Chen Hao. Little junior brother, why did you change your location? Heavenly Master Yuanru asked curiously. In fact, Heavenly Master Yuanru only had to teleport to Yang City and rush to the place where Chen Hao had appeared, and he could easily capture Chen Hao's aura. After all, Chen Hao was only a few hundred miles away. Nothing. Senior brother, I know nothing about the vast universe galaxy. I just heard someone mention the Yang planet. Does it have anything to do with Yang City? Chen Hao asked curiously. Let's go. We'll talk as we go. I've already contacted Master, and he's on his way back. Let's go to Master's residence first. Okay, Chen Hao replied. Although Yang City was called a city, the area it occupied was not much smaller than the central continent of the Wuji Star. From this, one could imagine how coincidental it was for Chen Hao to encounter Shimin Feng and the others, or rather, how unlucky. It can be said that the Yang City of the Second World is the base of all the cultivators on the 1008 planets under the Yang planet's rule. I'm sure you've noticed that entering the Second World has little effect on your original body. You can do whatever you want as long as you multitask. That's why the number of cultivators in the Second World is so terrifying. Many people don't even leave the Second World all year round. Yes, even I don't want to leave here. Whether it's cultivation or sightseeing, it's much better than the outside world. That's true. Take me, your senior brother, for example. If I don't have a great opportunity, the Heaven's Celestial Realm will be my final destination. The Heaven's Celestial Realm has a lifespan of hundreds of millions of years. Even an Earth's Celestial's lifespan of 1,000,000 years is extremely long, let alone a Heaven's Celestial like me. Without the possibility of a breakthrough, what else is there to pursue? It was nothing more than enjoying life. Eating, drinking, playing, and finding some fun of their own, and this was undoubtedly the best place to do so. However, such people were in the minority, and they were all people with powerful backgrounds. Many people, like Master, including me and my 3 senior brothers, who could relax. The meaning of our lives is not just to live for ourselves. Sigh, let's not talk about this. Heavenly Lord Yuanru changed the subject and said, when you step into the human celestial realm, you can start your journey in the starry sky. Of course, it's far from enough just relying on yourself. As you can see, there are a lot of human celestials in the Yang City. Although many of them are below the human celestial realm, they are different from you. You're a true genius of the Wuji planet, so you're qualified to get the soul helmet in advance. Most of them are disciples from powerful planets. Although it's not easy to get the soul helmet, at least it's much easier than on the Wuji planet. Oh, senior brother, I feel that the aura of those blessed realm cultivators, whether it's their bodies or souls, is not weak. They're on par with the ordinary celestials on the Wuji planet. Yes. It's related to the planet's bloodline inheritance. In fact, the rules of the vast universe galaxy don't determine who can enter the second world according to their realm, but according to their combat strength. To tell you the truth, the Wuji planet's inherited bloodline, talent, and strength are relatively weak in the vast universe galaxy. Some of the creatures from powerful planets are born in the Xiantian realm, and their combat strength is stronger than our Xiantian realm cultivators. Their most ordinary blessed realm cultivators can challenge our human celestial realm cultivators. If it weren't for Master's heaven-defying talent and cultivation, the Wuji planet would have been reduced to a slave planet. Ahem, we're back to this topic again. Let's not talk about this. Heavenly Lord Yuanru did not want to give Chen Hao too much psychological pressure from the beginning, but Chen Hao's question was automatically diverted to this topic once he explained. It could not be helped. The Wuji planet was indeed a little weak. Senior brother, it's all right. Weak is weak. It's not to the extent that I don't dare to face it head-on, nor will I be frightened. Just say what you want to say. Chen Hao smiled faintly and said, Well, I'll say what I want to say. First, I'll give you a general introduction. The galaxy we belong to, the vast universe galaxy, is one of the top 10 galaxies in the universe. The Yaing planet is one of the 36 main planets in the vast universe galaxy, and it has control over tens of thousands of planets with life. 1,008 of them are the main planets of the Yaing planet. Speaking of which, although the Wuji planet is at the bottom of the list, it's still much stronger than most of the planets with life. Led by Heavenly Lord Yuanru, the two chatted as they walked toward the center of the city at lightning speed. Even so, it took them 4 hours, and that was with Heavenly Lord Yuanru's speed. If it had been Chen Hao, it would have taken him at least 10 days to half a month to arrive. Of course, this was under the rules of time in the second world. In the outside world, it would have taken less than half an hour. Thanks to Heavenly Venerate Yuanru's introduction, Chen Hao gained a rough understanding of the entire universe in 4 hours. Human celestial realm cultivators were the most common in the vast universe galaxy. Compared to the Wuji planet, they were as common as golden elixir realm experts. Earth celestial realm experts could barely be considered low-level experts. Heavenly celestial realm experts were third-rate experts, and Daluo Jinxian experts were second-rate experts. Second-rate experts, or Daluo Jinxian experts, were basically the masters of a planet with life, just like the Wuji planet patriarch. Above Daluo Jinxian were the real experts. They were first-rate experts, the supreme of Hongmeng. Chen Hao also figured out what the danger the Wuji planet was facing was. Little junior brother, this is Master's palace. When something big happens, Master will summon the upper echelons of the Wuji planet here for a discussion. Even though the palace was only 100 square miles wide and was only in the second world, its value could be exchanged for 10 top-grade saint artifacts. It could be said that the things in the second world, especially the land, were much more expensive than the outside world. This was not only a symbol of status, but also a symbol of greater authority. When you are strong enough, you will naturally understand. Are sacred artifacts more advanced than spiritual treasures? Also, how do you buy them in the second world? Yes, sacred artifacts are more powerful than spiritual treasures. Even Master doesn't have many top-grade sacred artifacts. I only have 2 low-grade sacred artifacts. As for buying, of course, it is a real-life transaction. However, it is not completely based on immortal core crystals. Otherwise, even Master can't afford it. Ahem. Immortal core crystals are? Don't be embarrassed. It is normal that you don't know. Anyone who has not stepped out of the Wuji planet would not know. Immortal core crystals are the common currency in the vast universe galaxy. One immortal core crystal is equivalent to the amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi that an ordinary celestial realm cultivator can absorb in a month. This is the most basic unit. Third update. The word count did not meet the requirement. It is still too little. I tried my best. Chapter 499. Yuanru? Are you here to recommend another disciple to the patriarch? A cultivator who was about to leave called out when Heavenly Venerate Yunru led Chen Hao into the palace. This cultivator looked like a middle-aged man, but the aura he exuded was not inferior to Heavenly Venerate Yunru. That alone was enough to surprise Chen Hao. What surprised him even more was that this cultivator had addressed Heavenly Venerate Yunru by his name. That's right, Brother Lu. Heavenly Venerate Yunru cupped his fists and looked at Chen Hao. Little junior brother, let me introduce you. This is Lu Qingyang, Heavenly Venerate Qingyang. His cultivation base is very high, even higher than mine. Moreover, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Yunru, you called him little junior brother? Could it be? Heavenly Venerate Qingyang, who did not even look at Chen Hao, asked Heavenly Venerate Yunru after taking a look at Chen Hao. Yes, Chen Hao received the patriarch's last legacy. Heavenly Venerate Yunru said. That's right. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have noticed. Heavenly Venerate Qingyang looked at Chen Hao again, cupped his fists, and walked out of the palace. This Lu Qingyang is more than 1,000 years older than me. His talent isn't amazing, but his luck is extraordinary. Now, I'm afraid even I'm not a match for him. Do you know why he's neither hot nor cold to you? Heavenly Venerate Yunru asked Chen Hao after Lu Qingyang left. Not really, right? Besides, I'm only in the creation realm. Chen Hao said nonchalantly. In his opinion, it was normal for Heavenly Venerate Qingyang to ignore him. You can't say that. Anyone who knows your master's last disciple would want to get close to you, but what about him? The creation realm is nothing, but can't he sense that your aura is comparable to that of an earth immortal? This kind of talent is nothing on other powerful planets, but it's absolutely amazing that the bloodline inheritance on the Wuji planet can reach this level. To put it bluntly, he's just mentally unbalanced. Why? It's very simple. His talent wasn't outstanding. In the beginning, he didn't attract the attention of Master at all. He was only treated as an ordinary cultivator. In other words, he didn't receive any better resources. It was only when he broke through to the heavenly celestial stage that Master began to pay attention to him. However, at that time, there were very few people who could help him. It was also because of this reason that he always held a grudge against Master. If Fang Yan had received the same treatment as eldest senior brother, he would have broken through to the Daluo Golden Wonderland long ago. Fortunately, Master was magnanimous. Not only did he not blame him, he even gave him a top-grade saint artifact as compensation. Greetings, Heavenly Sovereign Yunru. Hello, Brother Yuanru. Along the way, all the cultivators they met were either earthly immortals or celestial immortals. But all of them were extremely respectful to Holy Master Yuanru. However, Holy Master Yuanru did not stop. He continued to communicate with Chen Hao through voice transmission. Soon, they arrived at the gate of the core palace, which was the palace of Ancestor Wuji. Senior brother, could it be that only cultivators above the Earth's celestial stage are qualified to stay here? Stay here? Apart from Master, no one is qualified to stay here because there are only a limited number of cultivation rooms. There are 365 Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3 cultivation rooms, and 1 Level 4 cultivation room. The Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, and Level 4 cultivation rooms are suitable for human immortals, earthly immortals, celestial immortals, and Daluo Jinxian. On the Wuji planet, there are currently more than 156,800 human immortals, more than 19,600 earthly immortals, and 3,432 celestial immortals. It was based on cultivation, contribution, potential, and other factors. The level and time of use of the cultivation room were allocated. Moreover, Master's Palace is not something that can be bought with money. Only the rulers of the 1008 main planets under the jurisdiction of the Yang planet can buy it. In the second world, those with money can also buy a residence, but the cultivation rooms there are incomparable to the ones here. Oh, by the way, Celestial Venerable Han Mei and Celestial Venerable Yun Wei bought a small courtyard in the Yang planet for you and your other disciples. Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Xiaoyu, Tentai Lian, and the twin sisters who are waiting for you all live there. You can go and have a look after you meet Master. Heavenly Sovereign Yuan Ru was now very clear about Chen Hao's past, including Chen Shui and a few of his close female friends. Furthermore, he was also aware of something even more important. That was Chen Hao's father, Chen Hai. This was first-hand information he had obtained when he was investigating Dongfang Han. Senior brother, why didn't you say so earlier? When will Master be back? How about? Ahem. Don't worry, Master should be back soon. Let's wait here. Creak, as Heavenly Venerable Yunru spoke, the door of the core palace slowly opened. Yuanru, go to the level 4 cultivation room. I'll give you half a year. Chen Hao, come in. A faint, dignified voice drifted out from the core palace. Just this voice alone had a magical power that could shake one's soul. Thank you, Master. Heavenly Venerable Yuanru bowed, his old face flushed with excitement. Clearly, the Patriarch's reward for him was beyond his expectations. Half a year in the level 4 cultivation room. What did that mean? The level 4 cultivation room was suitable for Daluo Jingxian. In the entire Wuji planet, only the Patriarch was qualified to use it. Usually, only peak heavenly immortal powerhouses who had made great contributions to the Wuji planet were qualified to cultivate there for 10 to 15 days. But this time, the Patriarch actually gave him half a year. How could he not be excited? Patriarch Wuji, the legendary Daluo Jingxian? Just that voice alone made me unable to submit or resist. If he wanted to influence my state of mind, it would be too easy. What's even stranger is that I can't remember what his voice sounded like. This is only the second-rate powerhouse Daluo Jingxian. What if it was the first-rate powerhouse Supreme Hongmeng? Chen Hao said to himself, slightly excited. Junior brother, I'll go first. Wait, Chen Shui and the rest contact number and address. You haven't told me. Ahem. I'll send you a message. Quickly go and... Heavenly Venerable Yuanru was conflicted. This was a summons from the Patriarch Wuji. If it were anyone else, they would be so nervous and excited that they couldn't control themselves, but this guy was still thinking about Chen Shui and the rest. Alright. With that, Chen Hao took a deep breath, turned around, and walked into the palace. I'm going to have dinner with friends tonight. I'll be back after dinner. I won't drink. I'll try to write another chapter before 12 o'clock. I've made a few appointments since I came back for the new year. I'll feel bad if I don't go. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Com. Chapter 500. As soon as Chen Hao stepped in, the thick and solid metal door closed automatically. What a clear fluctuation of the laws of heaven and earth. Chen Hao was already surprised by the laws of heaven and earth in the second world, but the laws of heaven and earth in the limitless Ancestor's Palace were beyond his imagination. This was only the palace. What if it was in the training room? The spacious hall was thousands of feet in diameter and hundreds of feet in height. In addition to the laws of heaven and earth being easier to comprehend, the energy of heaven and earth was also extremely pure and vigorous. However, Chen Hao realized that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the entire palace was of a high level that he could not refine. Limitless Immortal Palace's Winter Plum Hall disciple, Chen Hao, greets the ancestor. Chen Hao looked around and did not even see the shadow of the limitless Immortal Venerable. He could only stop and bow to the void. He did not directly call him master. After all, he had not even seen him before and had not even gone through the ceremony. It was also Yuanru Tianzuan who took the initiative to call him senior brother and junior brother. At this time, Chen Hao could not be too casual. After half a minute, there was no response. Chen Hao did not know what was going on, but he maintained his bow and did not move. No matter what, the limitless ancestor was the master of the limitless star. As a member of the limitless star, he should be respected. Not to mention that Chen Hao had obtained the Limitless Ancestor's most powerful inheritance. Strictly speaking, the Limitless Ancestor had a great influence on Chen Hao. The art of longevity was Chen Hao's entry skill. However, as time passed, Chen Hao maintained his bow for half an hour, but the Limitless Ancestor still did not make a sound. What's going on? Chen Hao was very puzzled. Could it be that he's testing my patience? Or is he checking me out? Chen Hao didn't sense any probing aura, but Chen Hao didn't think that the Limitless Ancestor didn't check on him. The ability of the experts of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland wasn't something that Chen Hao could measure. Even if the Limitless Ancestor saw through him, he wouldn't be able to detect it. A cultivation base of the creation realm, and a soul force that vaguely surpasses that of an earth immortal. Very good. Especially your physical body, it is very special, very special. Just as Chen Hao was feeling a little embarrassed and impatient, a faint, pleasant voice rang out beside him. It was like a gentle spring breeze, or like a drizzle moisturizing something. You are? Chen Hao asked with a slight frown when he turned his head to look beside him. She was wearing a light green dress, and her long black hair was tied behind her back with a pink ribbon. Her eyebrows were thin like smoke, and her eyes were clear and sparkling. Her skin was fair and rosy. At first glance, she looked like the little girl next door, elegant and pleasant, fresh and refined. She looked at most 15 or 16 years old. I am. The girl's clear eyes gazed at Chen Hao. She smiled and said, You are Chen Hao, right? Is the ancestor not back yet? The girl's smile grew wider. She said, He's back? Where are you from? Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. Yes, you don't have to hide it. The aura of your bloodline doesn't belong to the Limitless Star at all. Why are you lurking in the Limitless Star? The smile on the young girl's face grew even wider, but her clear eyes seemed to be able to pierce through Chen Hao, carrying with them an endless amount of magic, directly knocking on Chen Hao's soul. Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed slightly. I'm from... Chen Hao couldn't help but seem as if he'd been possessed, and he was about to reveal the secret that he'd never mentioned to anyone, including his closest parents and the woman he loved the most. But, just when the girl thought he would tell her the truth and pricked up her ears to listen, to her surprise, Chen Hao's unfocused eyes suddenly emitted 2 beams of light. Sorry, miss, I'm here to see the ancestor. You'd better take me to see the ancestor. Chen Hao's back was already covered in cold sweat, but he calmed down instantly. He hurriedly gathered his aura to the peak and said in a deep voice, Don't be surprised. Although your cultivation is strong and you're very beautiful, if you want to use this kind of charming skill to confuse me, it's still not enough. Chen Hao saw the girl's slightly surprised eyes, and his dark eyes flashed with 2 beams of confident light. He said rather proudly. The girl's mouth couldn't help but twitch. But soon she smiled again and said, You pass. But the question just now was what the ancestor wanted me to ask you. Please tell me the truth. Sorry, you won't tell me? Or you won't admit it? All life on the Limitless Star is under the ancestor's control. And you are completely outside the Limitless Star's laws of heaven and earth. You can hide from Yuan Ru, Sky Sovereign and the others, but you can't hide from the ancestor. Faced with the girl's questioning, Chen Hao frowned. It was inevitable that he was surprised. He really didn't expect the ancestor to be able to see through his soul with a glance. But, at this moment, Chen Hao's heart was more unhappy. After looking at the girl for a few seconds, Chen Hao directly turned around and looked into the depths of the palace. He cupped his fists again and said, Ancestor, you didn't summon this disciple just to let an insensible little girl make things difficult for me, right? No matter if your judgment is true or false, this is my personal privacy. If you ask me, as a junior, I naturally don't dare to hide it. Why do you want this little girl to use her charming skill on me? When Chen Hao was speaking, he didn't notice that the girl beside him, her eyes flashed with anger. She opened her mouth to say something, but she couldn't hold it in. You can leave. Finally, a voice filled with boundless majesty sounded again. Yes, old ancestor. The young girl cupped her fists respectfully towards the void and then disappeared. Even with Chen Hao's extremely sharp perception, he could not sense the slightest fluctuation of energy. "Chen Hao, you can speak now." A figure that was over 30 meters tall appeared in the spacious hall. The moment he appeared, the energy and the laws of heaven and earth in the hall seemed to stop circulating. Powerful. Incomparably powerful. This was the only feeling Chen Hao had. But, perhaps because of the displeasure just now, Chen Hao felt a little resentful and even a little disappointed. Chen Hao wanted to see the other person's face clearly, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't see clearly. Clearly, the ancestor of the limitless star did this on purpose. This made him even more displeased. "What, are you dissatisfied with the ancestor's actions? This disciple doesn't dare. Ancestor, you supported the billions of lives on the limitless star with your own strength. How can this disciple be dissatisfied with you? But this disciple doesn't know what to say. You've received my inheritance, and it's my most powerful inheritance. I think Yuanru should have told you that the limitless star only has 50 years left. If it's me, I can only rely on you. This concerns the life and death of the limitless star. How can I not be careful? It's not uncommon for a foreign tribe to disguise themselves and cause an entire planet to fall." Chapter 501. As for you, your situation is even more special. Ancestor Limitless' tone was heavy, revealing a deep sense of helplessness. 10,000 years ago, I started to prepare for the calamity 50 years later. I thought that I had made sufficient preparations, and as long as any of the 5 great inheritances could be used to the fullest, we would be able to survive this calamity. Apart from that, the limitless star also had hopes of giving birth to true geniuses. But I didn't expect that after 10,000 years, we still couldn't resolve this calamity. Yunru and the other 3 had each obtained my 4 great inheritances, but their talents and aptitudes were slightly inferior. In these 10,000 years, the limitless star also didn't give birth to any genius that met my standards. The limitless Devil Palace, Demon Palace, and Immortal Palace, these 3 great palaces' palace masters came from this. But their achievements were even worse than Yuanru's. Chen Hao's slightly dissatisfied mood gradually calmed down after Ancestor Limitless' narration. "And now, you've obtained my strongest inheritance, immortal and indestructible. Just this point alone proves that your state of mind and willpower have reached a height that ordinary people can't reach. State of mind and willpower, on the path of cultivation, the further you go, the more important it is, even more important than soul power. Especially after stepping into the heavenly immortal realm. I'm telling you this, because I want to tell you that I have to find out the reason why you came from, because this concerns the life and death of the entire limitless star, so I can't be careless. If I say that I don't know where I came from, would you believe me?" Chen Hao said after pondering for a while. "This isn't a matter of whether I believe you or not. The truth is that it's impossible for someone your age to have such a state of mind and willpower, especially when you obtained my inheritance, and it was snatched from Dongfang Han. Dongfang Han was able to obtain the inheritance, which means that his state of mind and willpower are extremely strong, otherwise he would have died in the inheritance. And you were able to snatch the inheritance from him, which is 10 times more difficult than obtaining the inheritance. It requires an even stronger state of mind and willpower. And this is taking into account that Dongfang Han only started cultivating the art of longevity halfway. So, the only explanation is that your soul has fused together and contains a huge amount of memories. Alright, it's true that I wasn't born on planet Wuji, and I do have some memories. However, those memories only appeared when I was 12 years old, which was the first year I started cultivating. Before that, I didn't know that I was hiding a secret. After that, in this life, other than gaining memories and fusing with my soul, I was still me. Fusing with those memories didn't change me at all, I was still me. My family, Tao companions, brothers, sisters, and friends are all from the boundless star, and so am I. Chen Hao said in an extremely serious manner. Although he didn't like this feeling, he still said it. He was not alone, and he was not living purely for himself. He did not care about the others on the Wuji planet, but once it became a slave planet, what would happen to his family, friends, junior brothers, junior sisters, and beloved Taoist companions? Which planet did the fused soul come from? The infinity sensed that Chen Hao was speaking from the bottom of his heart and asked. A planet called Earth. Chen Hao did not hide it. In fact, at this moment, telling the biggest secret in his heart to an outsider made him feel relieved, especially since the other party was the ruler of a planet. Who knew? Chen Hao might be able to obtain some information about Earth. Earth? We don't have it in vast universe galaxy. What's the specific situation? What's so special about it? To be specific, Earth is a very small planet with a diameter of only slightly more than 10,000 kilometers. Less than 30% of its surface is land. There are no true cultivators there. Of course, this is only the information in my memory. There are legends, but no one has seen them. The current Earth is developing in a different direction, which is called science. It's completely different from our world of cultivation. Science. The people on Earth can use science to create all kinds of things with various functions. There are also very powerful weapons that only ordinary people can use. Moreover, it has nothing to do with true essence or the energy of heaven and earth. For example, a spaceship that can travel through space, a weapon that can destroy a small planet, etc. That's about it. There's such a thing. That's the truth. Is there no similar planet in our vast universe galaxy? No. Vast universe galaxy. I haven't even heard of it in the top 10 galaxies. There's only one possibility. The Earth you're talking about exists in another universe. Perhaps, the seniors who have reached the supreme realm in Hongmeng would know about it. Alright, I'm clear about your situation now, let's talk about business. 3 hours later, Chen Hao walked out of the core palace with a token given by the Infinity Patriarch. Now, I don't have to worry about my identity anymore. Revealing his biggest secret was not as difficult as Chen Hao had imagined. Of course, one reason was that the Infinity Patriarch had seen through him, so he had to say it. Secondly, the Infinity Patriarch's identity did not give him too many scruples. Thirdly, Chen Hao believed that he had an absolute sense of belonging to the Infinity Star. Therefore, whether it was for his family and friends on the Infinity Star or for himself, it was a good thing to reveal it. Even the Infinity Patriarch has never heard of Earth. It seems that it really doesn't belong to this universe. Damn it, I really don't know how I got here. Whatever, I'm just curious. I have no regrets on Earth, and there's no one worthy of attachment. This token is good. Xiao Shui and the others are at East 100th Street number 13902, which is 1.6 billion kilometers from here. At my speed, it would take at least a few days to fly there. Fortunately, the Infinity Patriarch gave me this anonymous wealth card. Hiss. After stepping out of the limitless old ancestor's palace, Chen Hao immediately turned into a stream of light and walked toward the nearby teleportation point. Yang City was extremely huge. The area of the city was comparable to the central continent of the Infinity Star. Experts like Heavenly Lord Yuanru would have no problem flying there. However, Chen Hao could not. Fortunately, the Infinity Patriarch gave Chen Hao a wealth card. The so-called wealth card was, in fact, a bank card used on Earth. It was completely universal in the second world and the vast universe galaxy. Moreover, the consumption in the second world was not inferior to that in the vast universe galaxy. After a while, Chen Hao came to a transmission point. He spent one immortal core crystal and was directly transmitted to the transmission point closest to the residence of Qin Shui and the others. Although Heavenly Lord Yuanru had sent Chen Hao the contact numbers of Qin Shui and the others, this guy did not contact them. The first chapter. The number of words in this chapter is still a little low. The second chapter is about 12 o'clock. I'll write as many words as I can. It should be a chapter of at least 4,000 words. Chapter 502. Phew, Sister Shui, Yang City is too big. Fortunately, Master and the others bought it for us. If it were in other districts, it would take us a few days to get here, The three silhouettes arrived at the entrance of an inconspicuous courtyard at lightning speed and stopped. They were none other than Chen Shui and the Lung sisters. It took them several hours to get here from where they had appeared in Yang City. Yes, but the law of time here is different. It doesn't take long. Well, we won't need to use it when our cultivation base is higher and we can obtain more celestial origin crystals. We have no choice but to use it sparingly. One celestial origin crystal is equivalent to 1,000 supreme-grade primal crystal stones. If the three of us teleport, it'll cost us 3 celestial origin crystals. It's too extravagant. We should save as much as we can here. It had been a few years since Chen Shui left the Wuji star. However, the celestial origin crystals she could obtain were extremely limited. She only had slightly more than 100 wealth cards, which was barely enough for her cultivation. As she spoke, she opened the door of the courtyard with the token. The sisters followed her in. The courtyard was very small. There were only 4 rooms, which were cultivation rooms. Even so, Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei had squandered all their wealth when they bought it. However, it was enough for Qin Shui and the others. You'll cultivate in the room later. Little Wu and Yu Yu are on a mission. They won't be able to divert their attention for a while. Okay. Sister Shui, is there still no news from little Lien? No. Qin Shui shook her head and said, I wonder how she's doing now. She had to do such a dangerous mission. Don't follow her example when you get to Yang Planet. Qin Shui was also helpless. Tantai Lien's aptitude and talent were the worst amongst them, but in terms of cultivation level and combat strength, she'd always been closely chasing after them and hadn't fallen behind in the slightest. The reason was very simple. Tantai Lien was crazier and more desperate than any of them. Qin Shui, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu and the others both admired and worried about her. How's he doing now? Heavenly Sovereign Yuanru said that Brother Hao should be able to come out of seclusion soon. Moreover, Brother Hao has already refined Dongfang Han, so there shouldn't be any problems. Sister Shui, Heavenly Venerable Yuanru also said that Brother Hao would definitely become the Patriarch's last disciple. Now, the news has spread all over the Wuji planet. Our Winter Plum Hall and Yunwei Hall have already merged. The Palace Master of the Limitless Immortal Palace has given us a great reward. All of our benefits have increased by several times. Heavenly Venerable Yuanru also said that when Brother Hao comes out of seclusion, he will receive a soul helmet. Hee, Sister Shui, you will be able to see Brother Hao without waiting for Brother Hao to break through to the human celestial stage. That's good. It's been a few years. Chen Shui's eyes flashed with a trace of excitement, and her voice actually carried a trace of trembling as she spoke. Although Celestial Venerable Han Mei, Celestial Venerable Yun Wei, and the sisters would tell them about Chen Hao's situation from time to time, when they really heard that Chen Hao was about to come out of his secluded cultivation, they still couldn't control themselves. It wasn't any less than 1 year ago when they heard that Chen Hao had awakened and possessed the soul power of the Earth's celestial stage. Sister Shui, will that Shimin Feng cause trouble for us? It seems that his family is very powerful in the Yang City. His family is indeed very powerful. However, we don't have to worry. In the second world, they can be arrogant, but in the Yang Star, they won't dare to act recklessly. Our Patriarch is one of the most powerful Daluo Jinxian. As long as our Patriarch is still around, no force will dare to bully us. Speaking of the Patriarch of the Limitless Sect, Chen Shui's face was brimming with heartfelt respect. Knock knock knock. Just then, to Chen Shui's surprise, there was a knock on the door. Could it be Shimin Feng and his gang? Chen Shui thought to herself. At this time, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tantai Lian couldn't possibly come over. Celestial Venerable Han Mei and Celestial Venerable Yun Wei would only come over once every 6 months or so. After all, if one wanted to enter the second world on the Limitless Star, one could only enter the Elite Academy in the Spirit City. Moreover, if they came over, they didn't need to knock at all. They only needed to send a message on the token to open the door. Who is it? Qin Shui asked. A muffled sound rang out. For you. What's the matter? Qin Shui asked again. The The three of them were unfamiliar with the voice that came from outside the door. It was obvious that they didn't know who it was. However, no matter who it was, the three of them didn't have to worry. According to the rules of the second world, any private residence was absolutely safe. Whoever dared to barge in would suffer severe consequences. There's no need to ask who I am. You're Chen Shui, right? I have important news to pass on. Open the door. You were sent by Shimin Feng? Scram as far as you can. Chen Shui said angrily. She concluded that the three of them were followed by Shimin Feng and his gang. Otherwise, they wouldn't have found this place. Cough cough. Who is Shimin Feng? I have nothing to do with him. Was sent by Heavenly Venerable Yunru. Why, are you afraid that I will do something to you? It's fine if you don't open the door. But if you miss it, it will be your loss. The dull voice sounded again. Chen Shui and the sisters looked at each other. They didn't understand. What kind of news could Heavenly Venerable Yuanru not tell them personally but pass it on? After all, Heavenly Venerable Yuanru knew their contact number. This person is sneaky. Not only did he conceal his aura, but his voice is obviously fake as well. Chen Shui's powerful soul perception had already begun to investigate, but she couldn't capture any of the other party's aura. It was obvious that the other party's cultivation base was higher than hers. Sister Shui, could it be that Brother Hao has woken up? Heavenly Venerable Yuanru is on the Wuji planet. If something happened, he wouldn't be able to come to the second world. Lin Ninghuan said. Chen Hao has woken up? The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. Chen Shui, who was more intelligent than others, couldn't figure out the strange behavior of this person and the reason behind it. However, Lin Ninghuan's casual words made Chen Shui think of a possibility. Who else would be so bored other than him? Although he was still in the blessed realm, his soul realm was already at the peak of the earth immortal realm. If he concealed his aura, how could she catch him? Bam, bam, bam. At this moment, Chen Shui was so nervous that she couldn't control herself. Her heartbeat sped up several times. If you don't open the door, I'm going to leave. Chen Hao concealed his aura to the extreme and blended into everything in the world with a proud expression on his face. Of course, there was also a strong sense of excitement. Especially when he heard Chen Shui's familiar voice, he couldn't wait to leave and expose himself. Clang. Suddenly, the door was opened by a strong force. It scared the three of them. The beautiful sisters of the Lung family didn't understand why Chen Shui was suddenly so nervous and excited and couldn't wait to open the door. Chen Hao thought that he would dawdle for a while before opening the door. Why did it suddenly open? Where is he? Why is there no one? The beautiful sisters of the Lung family looked at the empty door and asked in confusion. As for Chen Shui, who was dressed in a blue dress, it was as if she did not hear the question of the two. She only stared fixedly at the scene before her. Her beautiful and cold face appeared to be extremely excited at this moment. She was so excited that even her graceful and delicate body carried a trace of trembling. Chen Hao, you bastard! Why are you still not coming out? Ah! The beautiful sisters looked at Chen Shui stupidly. Cough cough. Chen Hao, who had blended into everything in the world, was also a little dumbfounded. He stared at Chen Shui for a few seconds. Finally, an imperceptible breeze suddenly drifted to Chen Shui's back. Ah, little Shui, I missed you so much. Brother Hao, accompanied by Chen Shui's sudden scream, the beautiful sisters of the Lung family saw Chen Hao. They opened their small mouths and cried out at the same time. Chen Shui struggled for a while, but she didn't struggle out of Chen Hao's arms. Instead, she struggled to turn around and stared at Chen Hao, who was half a head taller than her. Immediately, she threw herself into his strong arms. 11 years later, Chen Hao fell into a coma. A few years later, Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tantai Lian broke through to the human celestial stage and left the Wuji star. Since then, they hadn't seen Chen Hao again. And Chen Hao hadn't seen Chen Shui and the others for more than 11 years. Although it was only a reunion in the second world, they couldn't control themselves. Hugging that soft and graceful body and smelling that familiar faint body fragrance, he felt as if it was real and there was no difference at all. Brother Hao, Sister Shui? Let's go in. When the surrounding crowd stopped to watch, Chen Hao and Chen Shui were still hugging each other as if there was no one around. They hugged each other tightly, and neither of them spoke. They only felt each other's heartbeat, breath, and familiar smell. They seemed to have completely forgotten where they were until the sisters couldn't help but remind them. After entering the courtyard, the lovely sisters used the excuse of cultivation to leave Chen Hao and Chen Shui alone. Chen Hao and Chen Shui also entered a room together. You first. After closing the door of the room, they spoke at the same time. Little Shui, we still have such chemistry. I haven't seen you in more than 10 years, you've become even more beautiful. Chen Hao held Chen Shui's slender waist with one hand, while his other hand was on Chen Shui's sparkling and translucent face that was flushed red. You only know how to make people worry. Cough cough. I also don't want to be like this, but I have no choice every time, Chen Hao said. Their faces were originally half a foot apart, but as this fellow spoke, he continued to get closer, their eyes met, and for the first time, Chen Shui didn't dodge. Instead, she shyly closed her eyes. When Chen Hao finished speaking, he also naturally kissed those tender lips. From gentle to wild, the two of them hugged each other tightly, greedily tasting the joy, excitement, and heartbeat of meeting again after 11 years. Even though there were many things to say, many questions to ask, but at this moment, everything had to be put aside. Second update. Cough cough, 3,000 words. I can't write anymore. Chapter 503. Fiery, passionate, a long kiss that could not wait to fuse into the other party's body. That wonderful feeling, it could not be described with words. This was not just a physical need, but a desire from the depths of the soul. How are we going to do it here? Unknowingly, when the two of them had taken off most of their clothes, Chen Hao could not help but release the last of the restraints on Chen Shui's body. Chen Shui, who still had a trace of rationality, almost murmured. After 11 years of waiting, especially after stepping out of the Wuji star, Chen Shui had already let go of all the reservations in her heart. Love was love, love that was open, love without any conditions. Since they both needed each other, why should she suppress her own desires? This time, Chen Hao had survived the crisis and woke up. What if there were any accidents in the future? She did not want to leave any regrets, especially in this world that was 100 times, 1,000 times more dangerous than the Wuji star, filled with cruel competition, where she could die at any time. She had thought it through. She would completely give herself to Chen Hao, to be a true Dao companion, the sooner the better. That way, even if she died, there would not be many regrets. Moreover, maintaining the body of primordial Yin was really attracting bees and butterflies. She had had enough. It was just that, this was her first time, and this was the second world. Although what he felt in the second world was no different from what he felt in the real world, it was still the second world after all. It was merely a strand of consciousness that had reconstructed himself, and it was utterly unable to affect the physical body in the real world. Of course, Chen Shui's tone wasn't firm. If Chen Hao insisted, she would comply. She would only feel a little regret. I'm sorry, Xiao Shui, I was too excited. Hearing Chen Shui's words, Chen Hao suddenly stopped what he was doing. He forcefully suppressed the boiling desire and said, "Thank goodness you reminded me. This is your first time, how can it be here? Let's just hug and talk like this." Phew, Wuji Star, Elite Academy X. In the palace of Heavenly Lord Yunru, Chen Hao let out a long sigh and took off the spiritual helmet. Done? Heavenly Venerate Yunru, who was sitting beside Chen Hao, opened his eyes. However, he didn't take off his helmet, as he didn't want to waste the reward he had obtained with great difficulty. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to instruct Chen Hao on some matters, he would definitely have integrated all of his attention into the second world. It's done, Chen Hao replied. It's a rare opportunity for Master to reward me, so I won't come out. How about it? What did Master say to you? He didn't say much. He just gave me a wealth card and told me what I should do in the future. However, Senior Zhang, Master is very secretive. I didn't get to see what he looks like. It can't be? Didn't Master show up? Yes. However, he was surrounded by the laws, and with my cultivation, I couldn't see his true appearance. At first, he even sent a little girl to test me. A little girl to test you? Heavenly Venerate Yunru seemed a little surprised, but just as he was about to say something, he suddenly shut his mouth, as if deep in thought. Then, he looked at Chen Hao and said, Master must have some plans. Alright, I'll see you out. If there's anything else you need to do it quickly and ascend to human immortal as soon as possible. It'll take about 2 months. I'll look for you then, alright. Heavenly Venerate Yunru sent out a wave of energy, and Chen Hao disappeared from the palace. Chen Hao didn't know that Heavenly Venerate Yunru was deep in thought after seeing him out. But apart from the higher-ups of Wuji, there shouldn't be anyone else in Master's palace. The little girl that Junior Zhang mentioned? I don't get it, but Master must have his reasons for doing this. Stepping out of Heavenly Venerate Yunru's palace, Chen Hao met up with the sisters and informed Qin Nan, Qin Yen, and his siblings who were worried about him. No matter how reluctant Chen Hao was, he had to leave. On the path of cultivation, Chen Hao could only help to the best of his ability. What they truly had to rely on was still themselves. Moreover, Chen Hao had unknowingly shouldered a heavy mission. It was a mission that he had no choice but to accept. After reuniting for a few days, Chen Hao dismissed everyone who was reluctant to part. He brought his younger brother Chen Nan, younger sister Chen Yen, and the Leng sisters to Heavenly Mist City to visit his former, sworn brother, and now, grandfather. Then, the 5 of them rushed to the cultivation world of the Eastern continent before finally returning to the secular world. The sisters had never seen Chen Hao's parents before. Naturally, they were nervous, and a little expectant. As for Chen Hao, Chen Nan, and Chen Yen, they were inexplicably excited to return home to visit their parents after so many years. They couldn't wait to appear in front of their parents. Unfortunately, what Chen Hao and the others didn't expect was that they wouldn't be able to see their parents after so many years. Only Elder Xiao passed on the letter that their father had left for Chen Hao and his siblings. The only thing they could be sure of was that their father had left the Wuji Star with their mother. As for where they were going, they didn't tell them. There were many questions and unknowns. This made their father even more mysterious in Chen Hao's heart. When Chen Hao left the central continent, Heavenly Venerable Yunru finally used up half a year's time in the second world that Patriarch Wuji had rewarded him. He gathered the top forces of the central continent and directly announced that Chen Hao had become Patriarch Wuji's last disciple. He also discussed with the top forces and confirmed the rewards for Chen Hao. All the clans and sects that had contributed to Chen Hao's growth were listed as rewards. The Xiao family, Star-Picking Sect, Winter Plum Hall, Yunwei Hall, and so on were all included. This included the proud Heaven Guardians that Chen Hao had formed and all the people who had a good relationship with Chen Hao. They all received corresponding benefits. Chen Hao's name became the hottest topic in the entire Wuji Star in just a few days. He also became the idol of countless young disciples who were envious and jealous of him. There was only one goal, and that was to solve all of Chen Hao's worries. Winter Plum Hall was on a towering mountain that reached into the clouds. The peak was shrouded in multicolored light. Purple chi soared into the sky. The spirit chi of heaven and earth within a radius of thousands of miles seemed to revolve around this mountain. On the peak, besides a huge, sparkling rock that was as smooth as jade, there were ravines all around. They looked like blackened reefs. If a normal cultivator below the blessed realm came here, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure here. It was the pressure of heaven's punishment. This mountain was the special mountain that all the blessed realm disciples of Winter Plum Hall used to trigger heaven's punishment. At this moment, Chen Hao was sitting cross-legged on the huge rock. He had been sitting here for a whole month. His essence, chi, and spirit had already been condensed to the fullest. Moreover, he had advanced to the half-step human immortal realm. Every breath he took resonated with heaven and earth. If he wanted to, he could trigger heaven's punishment at any time. Heaven's punishment from the blessed realm to the human immortal realm. However, Chen Hao hadn't triggered it yet. It was as if he had scruples, or as if he was waiting for something. I'm about to step out of the Wuji star. There are many things that I need to think about. That's it for today. Chapter 504. What's going on? He said he was going to trigger heaven's punishment a month ago, but it hasn't started yet. Could it be that he's not confident? Wait patiently. It wasn't easy for Master to fight for this opportunity to watch the ceremony. Look around. Who isn't an outstanding figure of Elite Academy X? The Shenhao is really strong. He's only a half-step human immortal, but I feel that he's even stronger than Master. Moreover, according to Master, his state of mind and soul are close to breaking through to the Earth immortal realm. Once he becomes a human immortal, he'll definitely be comparable to a Master at the peak of the Earth immortal realm, or even a half-step heaven immortal. But I don't know why he hasn't triggered heaven's punishment yet. Yeah, I'm curious too. Cold Plum Hall, around heaven's punishment peak, on the mountain peaks and in the void, many young cultivators had been waiting for a month. These young cultivators were basically the elites of the younger generation on Wuji Star. More than half of them were super geniuses from Elite Academy, while the other half were demon-like geniuses from various top forces. They were here to watch Shenhao trigger heaven's punishment. This was specially arranged by Heavenly Lord Yuanru. Firstly, it was to let the genius disciples of Wuji Star, especially those who were about to trigger heaven's punishment, feel Shenhao's aura of heaven's punishment and gain something from it. Secondly, it was to stop those who didn't want to hide the fact that Patriarch Wuji had taken Shenhao as his last disciple and treated him well. It was also to expand Shenhao's influence on Wuji Star. But now, no matter who it was, they were getting impatient. It had been a month since Shenhao had prepared to trigger heaven's punishment, but it hadn't started yet. Who wouldn't be anxious? Not to mention the elite disciples, even Heavenly Lord Yuanru, Venerable Immortal Han Mei, and the others were worried. They didn't understand what was going on with Shenhao. But no one could interfere in triggering heaven's punishment. The only one who knew what was going on was himself. Master, it's finally done. 3 days later, Shenhao finally heard the voices of Old God and the treasure-hunting sword spirit. In fact, when Shenhao killed Dongfang Han and obtained the inheritance of immortality and indestructibility, the Old God, the treasure hunter's sword spirit, Edo Tai, and the 5 divine beasts had started something that even the Infinity Ancestor would never have guessed, which was the fusion of worlds. Merged Shenhao's mental world with the undying and imperishable world. Only the Old God knew how to do it, and only the Old God could do it. And now, it was finally done. Shenhao's body trembled slightly. Clearly, the appearance of Old God and the treasure-hunting sword spirit had made him slightly excited. So slow. Didn't you say that it would be done in a month? It's already been more than 2 months. Motherfucker, this is killing me. What happened? Look around. I thought that you would be able to complete it more than a month ago, so I promised them the time I would trigger heaven's punishment. In the end, these guys have been waiting for a month. Fortunately, you didn't succeed too late. Shenhao said. Cough cough this? I didn't expect it either. When I merged with the undying and imperishable world, I actually triggered my own restriction and obtained an unexpected reward. What do you mean? Merging 2 worlds in a row. It can be said that we've reached the true limit of our fusion. The limit of the creation realm. I really didn't expect that the inheritance of the undying and imperishable world would contain countless precious materials for our fusion. Ah? Doesn't that mean that your ability? It's just so. My mental strength is just a little higher than yours, and I've only reached the heavenly immortal realm. Of course, this isn't the most important thing. I guarantee that you'll be shocked and excited because I have a function that you really, really need. What function? Roaming the stars. Roaming the stars? That's right. My true body can already appear, and it's at least comparable to a supreme-grade sacred artifact in this universe, and it's the most valuable one. It won't be a problem for me to bring you through the stars. Of course, you can only use it secretly and can't let an expert discover it. Otherwise, with your current ability, you won't be able to protect me at all. Instead, you'll bring a fatal disaster upon yourself. Are you serious? Old God, you're aware of the situation in this world? Chen Hao asked in surprise. It wasn't that Chen Hao hadn't asked before, but the old god had never talked about things that were beyond Chen Hao's own cultivation level. For example, the old god had never revealed the situation after stepping out of the Wuji star. Now, the old god's words clearly showed that he was very clear about the situation in this universe. Of course I'm clear about it. However, don't blame me for not revealing it before. You should know that my various abilities are limited by you. Only as your cultivation level increases and as we merge further will I be able to obtain the corresponding abilities. Phew! After communicating with the old god in his mind for a while, Chen Hao finally heaved a long sigh of relief. He opened his eyes and looked up at the endless void. He moved. Chen Hao moved. Is it going to start? Phew! Let's start quickly. We've already wasted a month's time. Yes, I hope I can gain something from comprehending his talent. Otherwise, I'll have wasted the opportunity to cultivate in the Holy Land. Boom! Without giving the crowd too much time to discuss, Chen Hao, who had been sitting cross-legged, suddenly stood up. The moment he stood up, his essence, qi, and spirit erupted like a flash flood bursting through a dam. After more than a month of brewing, it finally erupted without restraint. So powerful! In just a moment, the cultivators who were watching from afar, including some human immortals and earth immortals, widened their eyes in horror. In the blink of an eye, Chen Hao's essence, qi, and spirit condensed into a crystal light that shot up to the sky. Moreover, it was the legendary rainbow crystal light. At the same time, with Chen Hao as the core, the energy of heaven and earth began to fluctuate, roll, condense, and spread fast. It was unbelievably fast. 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles passed in an instant. 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 100,000 miles. At this point, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Heavenly Venerable Yuanru, who was in charge of organizing the ceremony, gasped in horror. He was not surprised by the range of the energy fluctuation, but by the fact that the energy fluctuation was still spreading at an alarming speed. What did that mean? Half of the half-step human immortals who triggered the heavenly punishment could only cover an area of tens of thousands of miles. Those who could reach 100,000 miles were definitely monstrous geniuses. Those who could reach 100,000 miles were few and far between in the entire Wuji star. Moreover, those who could reach 100,000 miles would stop at 100,000 miles. But what about Chen Hao? Based on the current momentum, no one knew how much he could reach. It said that when eldest senior brother stepped into the human immortal realm, the heavenly punishment he triggered covered 160,000 miles. That's the highest on the entire Wuji star besides Master. Heavenly Venerable Yunru thought to himself as he sensed the energy fluctuation brought about by Chen Hao. Looking at this trend, Chen Hao is going to surpass eldest senior brother. He's basically settled down. That's right. Otherwise, how can he save the Wuji star? How can he shoulder Master's mission? Perhaps only when he reaches Master's level will there be hope. Heavenly Venerable Yuanru did not know how much Patriarch Wuji had when he stepped into the human immortal realm. It could be said that no one on the Wuji star knew. However, Heavenly Venerable Yuanru could make a judgment based on the monstrous geniuses of the other powerful races in the vast universe galaxy. When a cultivator with the potential to become an elite in the Daluo Golden Wonderland stepped into the human immortal realm, the heavenly punishment would usually cover an area of more than 200,000 miles. Of course, this was not a requirement. Many of the monstrous geniuses of the powerful races in the vast universe galaxy could easily reach 200,000 miles, but there were not many who had reached the Daluo Jinxian realm. Moreover, even if they could not reach 200,000 miles, they would still step into the Daluo Jinxian realm. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Finally, when the spiritual energy ripples triggered by Chen Hao reached 180,000 miles, it finally began to slow down. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the vicinity of Chen Hao gathered crazily, producing terrifying thunderous explosions. Right above Chen Hao's head, the terrifying seven-colored tribulation cloud gradually condensed, and the surroundings were dark clouds rolling, covering the sky and the sun, causing the area of more than 100,000 miles to sink into boundless darkness. Only the area of 1,000 miles around Chinhao was enveloped in dazzling seven-colored light. The cultivators, who were originally hundreds and even thousands of miles away from Chinhao, quickly retreated without heavenly venerable Yuanru's instructions. The rainbow tribulation cloud gathered more and more energy, and its aura became more and more terrifying. Although the energy ripples had slowed down, they still did not stop spreading. 190,000 miles. 200,000 miles. 210,000 miles. Old God, how can it be so strong? No one knew that even the person involved, Chinhao, was shocked at this moment. One had to know that he was the clearest about his own heavenly punishment. At this moment, his essence, energy, and spirit had already been raised to the limit. Logically speaking, it should have stopped spreading and allowed the heavenly punishment to descend. Cough cough, this naturally has something to do with me. This fusion of the undying and imperishable world is already very heaven-defying. Moreover, it directly opened two of my shackles. I'm afraid. Afraid of what? The heavenly punishment triggered is not only the laws of heaven and earth of the limitless star. You mean our aura has already touched the laws of heaven and earth of the vast universe galaxy? It should be. You decide for yourself. If you resist it, it will be dangerous. If not, your body will be destroyed. However, if you can resist it, the improvement you will obtain will also be heaven-defying. Old God said. At this point, Old God worshipped Chinhao's soul and will. At least, none of his previous masters at Chinhao's level could be compared to Chinhao. Therefore, Old God was sure that even if Chinhao's body was destroyed, his soul and will would survive. Of course I'll resist it. Heavenly punishment is an opportunity for me. How can I miss it? I want to see how strong the laws of heaven and earth of the vast universe galaxy are. Boom. Chinhao, who had clearly reached his limit, was not afraid when he heard Old God's words. Instead, he became even more excited and crazily urged his essence, energy, and spirit. Come to vote for me. Chapter 505. Rumble. As the seven-colored tribulation gathered more and more energy, the void within 1,000 miles above Chinhao's head seemed to have turned into seven-colored crystals. No one knew how much energy the tribulation cloud contained, and no one could imagine how terrifying it would be once the heavenly punishment was unleashed. Apart from heavenly venerate Yunru, all the experts present, including those at the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage, were shocked. Was this the heavenly punishment that was triggered when one was promoted to a human celestial? Even when they were promoted to the Earth's celestial stage, they were still far from it, let alone when they were promoted to the human celestial stage. Moreover, what made their palms sweat was that if they were in Chinhao's heavenly punishment, they would have been turned into ashes. How could Chinhao, who was only a half-step human celestial, resist it? No. Since he can trigger such a powerful heavenly punishment, it means he must have the strength to match it. You should know that the heavenly punishment varies from person to person. Could it be that little junior brother's strength is comparable to a peak expert at the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage? Heavenly venerate Yuanru was also puzzled. Chinhao's soul realm was only at the peak of the Earth's celestial stage, and there were signs of a breakthrough. However, his soul realm was only at the half-step human celestial stage. Now, the heavenly punishment that Chinhao triggered was obviously more powerful than the heavenly punishment that was triggered by ordinary half-step heaven celestials. I hope there are no accidents. With little junior brother's soul realm, he should be fine. I'm just afraid his body won't be able to withstand it. Similarly, Celestial Venerate Han Mei and Celestial Venerate Yun Wei, who were not far away from Heavenly Venerate Yuanru, were even more worried about Chinhao. They were only at the peak of the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage, and their only feeling was that Chinhao's heavenly punishment was too heaven-defying. It was so heaven-defying that it made their hearts palpitate. However, no one could do anything in the face of the heavenly punishment. The only thing they could do was to wait and pray that Chinhao could withstand it. On the contrary, the beautiful sisters of the Lung clan, Chen Nen, Chen Yen, Huyan Aobua, and the others who had already retreated 1,000 miles away were all indescribably excited when they saw how terrifying Chen Hao's heavenly punishment was. As the saying goes, the ignorant are fearless, and this was the true portrayal of them. Of course, the most important thing was that they had almost blind confidence in Chen Hao, and Chen Hao had never let them down before. Gotcha. Finally, the range of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth finally stopped spreading. When the 7-colored tribulation clouds had clearly condensed to the limit, no one saw a bright light penetrating the endless void and bombarding the thick 7-colored tribulation clouds. In that instant, Chen Hao's heavenly punishment finally erupted. Boom! 1,000 feet thick rainbow-colored beam of light descended from the sky, but the closer it got to Chen Hao, the more condensed it became. Just as it was about to hit Chen Hao, the beam of light became as thick as a person. Roar! At this moment, Chen Hao let out a long roar that reverberated through the heavens and earth. He faced the beam of light head-on without using any of his ultimate techniques to block it. All he did was circulate his spiritual qi and true essence crazily within his body. He was going to resist it head-on. Boom! A terrifying explosion came from the peak. It was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking, causing the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles to tremble violently. The endless pressure of heaven and earth and the extremely terrifying aura of the laws of heaven and earth engulfed the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles at this moment. At this moment, all the genius disciples who came to watch the ceremony closed their eyes in excitement, feeling the opportunity of comprehension brought by Chen Hao's heavenly punishment. In just a few breaths' time, everyone had to suppress the ecstasy in their hearts, fearing that they would miss any moment. The disciples who had originally complained that they had wasted more than a month were now incomparably glad that they had persisted until now. The first heavenly punishment lasted for a full 2 minutes. Then came the second, the third. When it came to the fourth, even the leading masters at the Earth's celestial stage couldn't help but close their eyes, including Senior Celestial Han Mei and Senior Celestial Yun Wei, who were worried about Chen Hao's safety, were no exception. No one had expected that Chen Hao's heavenly punishment would contain such a vast amount of laws of heaven and earth, which even the masters at the Earth's celestial stage couldn't comprehend or touch. The fifth, the sixth. When it came to the seventh, heavenly master Yunru, who had the highest cultivation among all the cultivators, finally suppressed the shock in his heart and closed his eyes. Come on more violently. Now it's far from enough. It's not enough. Chen Hao, who almost didn't look like a human being, was in the terrifying heavenly punishment. His eyes were bright and shining with boundless arrogance and unshakable obsession. Under Chen Hao's crazy urging, his broken body kept recovering. The pain that was beyond the limit, the pressure on his soul, and the pressure on his state of mind almost shattered Chen Hao's body and destroyed his state of mind. But it was only almost. Chen Hao clearly felt that every time the light beam of heavenly punishment descended, he seemed to have been reborn. His body, soul, state of mind, willpower. His comprehension of the laws of heaven was improving at an amazing speed. Every cell and every strand of willpower was undergoing an amazing change. When the eighth heavenly punishment descended, Chen Hao directly turned into a black charcoal. No matter if it was his body, soul, or state of mind, Chen Hao was unable to resist the attack. Especially in his state of mind, all kinds of illusory attacks appeared, which made Chen Hao's state of mind fall into a trance instantly. Bang! Chen Hao's charcoal body, which was filled with lead and mercury, fell heavily on the peak of the mountain. His consciousness seemed to have completely dissipated, and he fell into a coma. Not good. The old god, who had been nervously watching Chen Hao endure the endless pressure of heavenly punishment, saw Chen Hao fall into a coma and was terrified to the extreme. Master! Chen Hao! Wake up! The old god activated all the power of his mind, and a vast voice that seemed to contain endless laws resounded in Chen Hao's mind. At the same time, mysterious runes constantly condensed in Chen Hao's mind. Rumble. A loud, passionate, crazy, and heart-wrenching cries suddenly came from Chen Hao's soul palace. Chen Hao, whose aura had almost disappeared, suddenly erupted with an extremely condensed willpower that soared into the sky. Master, make your move. The 9th wave of heavenly punishment will far exceed your limit. I'm afraid. The old god had no choice but to persuade him. After all, the 8th wave of heavenly punishment had already exceeded Chen Hao's limit. The old god knew that if he did not summon Chen Hao, although he could wake up, it would take some time. At that time, he would be doomed eternally. I said before, I have to resist. Don't worry, I won't die. Just now, my willpower was only temporarily sealed. Even if it was 10 times stronger, it would not be able to truly destroy me. But your body? Even you think that my body is the weakest? Before this, I also thought so. Ha! Just watch. The arrogance in Chen Hao's bones was completely aroused. He had never had such confidence before. Rumble. The 9th wave of heavenly punishment descended. Bang. Rumble. The several thousand zhang tall mountain was instantly razed to the ground. Chen Hao's body directly collapsed, turning into countless fragments. However, a crystal-clear willpower protected these fragments in the terrifying explosion. The heavenly punishment disappeared. The fragments gathered. His body reformed. Endless heaven and earth energy began to gather towards the fragments, nourishing the severely injured Chen Hao. Success. He actually succeeded. Unimaginable, really unimaginable. When the heavenly punishment disappeared, everyone looked at the raised mountain. Where was Chen Hao's shadow? It was as if everything had returned to dust. At this time, Heavenly Venerable Yunru was anxious and lamenting. Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei were in a daze. Their faces were pale. As for the Lung sisters, Chen Yan, and other people closest to Chen Hao, their minds went blank. They felt that everything had lost its luster, and the world had collapsed. However, this situation only lasted for a moment before they were awakened by the self-gathering of the fragments that did not look human and were not even flesh. No one could imagine that Chen Hao's soul, willpower, and body had actually reached such a monstrous level. Whose body could be gathered when it was almost crushed into powder? And this incredible scene appeared in front of them. When the nourishment after the heavenly punishment began, everyone knew that Chen Hao had succeeded. Otherwise, there would not be such a phenomenon. After any heavenly punishment, as long as the cultivator's body and soul were not destroyed, they would be nourished by the energy of the heavenly punishment and be restored to their peak state. Phew! Immortal and indestructible. I didn't expect little junior brother to be able to comprehend to such a level after just receiving the inheritance. This is simply a miracle, a miracle. As long as the soul is not destroyed, the body will never be destroyed. Even if he is bombarded to pieces, as long as there is a single cell, he can rebuild his body again. This is the highest level of immortality. Little junior brother is only a half-step human immortal. He has just stepped into the human immortal realm. Heavenly Venerable Yunru stared blankly at Chen Hao, who was rapidly forming and rebuilding his body amidst the heaven and earth energy. He was extremely shocked. However, Heavenly Venerable Yunru did not know that his judgment was wrong. Chen Hao, who had just received the immortal and indestructible inheritance, did not comprehend much at all. He was only slightly better than Dongfang Han back then. The fact that he could achieve this had nothing to do with the immortal and indestructible inheritance. It was because of his special body. This was also the real reason why Chen Hao dared to continue resisting the 9 levels of heavenly punishment. All this time, although Chen Hao knew that his body was special and had an extremely perverse regenerative ability, he did not know exactly how perverse it was. This was something that even he did not know when he cultivated his body back then. But this time, as he endured the terrifying heavenly punishment that he had never experienced before, his soul, will, and body miraculously merged completely with his body. It was as if they had merged into every single cell. Chen Hao could clearly feel that even if he only had a single cell left, he could rebuild a brand new body again. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.